perhaps they're not finding what they're looking for, and they're looking for something a bit deeper, a bit more truthful, a bit more akin to Britain's Christian heritage.
That's right, get ready, because the most exciting night in general election history starts now!
Good afternoon, it's 12 o'clock on Saturday the 15th of November and this is The Weekend on GB News. Now, a cracking show for you. In a world exclusive, GB News sits down with the President of the United States, that's Donald Trump, as he takes aim at the BBC.
This was a great term, except it's not strong enough. You know, I'd like it to be stronger. You know, the word fake is one thing, but this is beyond fake. This is corrupt.
And he addresses his plan to sue the broadcaster for $1 billion.
I'm not looking to get into lawsuits, but I think I have an obligation to do it. This was so egregious. If you don't do it, you don't stop it from happening again. And I wonder if they've done it, we'll find this out. You know, the nice part about litigation is we'll find out how many times have they done it to other people.
And he doesn't hold back about what he thinks about the state of Britain either.
Country among others, but your country is one of the worst. You talk about UK, it's one of the worst in the world.
And as for his thoughts on London Mayor Sadiq Khan...
He's a terrible mayor, and look at the crime you have in London. My mother loved London, she loved that city. She'd always talk about, that was a different London than you have today. Yeah. Today you have people being stabbed in the or worse.
I want to know what that bleep is, don't you? He also let rip about, immigration, the UK and Europe.
It is going to destroy you. If you get people from the wrong people, in our case, we had people coming in from jails, from mental institutions, from the drug dealers, and some of the worst scum.
Thank you for coming to me on the word scum. I'm Dawn Niesman. The weekend starts right here and now. So it's not often the President of the United States, the most powerful man in the world, sits down for a cosy chat with a journalist. It just doesn't happen. I've been a journalist for years and years and years, and believe me, it really doesn't happen. And this one is an absolute cracker. And for the first time today, I'm going to play full, unedited, yes, Bev, even that bit's going out, unedited Bev's chat with Donald Trump in the White House there. We've shown you little clips throughout the morning as a little teaser, but I've got the full package and you really don't want to miss it. There's some absolutely fascinating stuff in there. And I'm also going to reveal, and she might not talk to me again after this, exactly what our Bev Turner did after she got that amazing exclusive scoop for us. But this show is nothing without you and your views. So we are doing other stuff as well, by the way. So let me know your thoughts on everything to do with Donald Trump, everything not to do with Donald Trump, and everything you're doing at the weekend. Because it is the weekend, it's a Saturday, and we're here to have a chat, aren't we? Very easy to get involved, gbnews.com/your-say, and join in. But before, yes, I've got my friend in the studio with me again. It's the wonderful Bethany Elsey with your news headlines.
Thank you, Dawn. Good afternoon. Your top stories from the GB newsroom at 3 minutes past 12. The US President has told GB News he feels obligated to take legal action against the BBC for defamation. Donald Trump says he'll sue the broadcaster for at least $1 billion after it apologised but refused to compensate him over airing misleading clips in a Panorama programme. It spliced together parts of his speech on the day of the Capitol Hill riot, making it seem like he made a direct call for violence. They call it an error of judgment. But in an exclusive interview with The Late Show, Donald Trump branded the BBC corrupt.
Fake news was a great term, except it's not strong enough. You know, I'd like it to be stronger. You know, the word fake is one thing, but this is beyond fake. This is corrupt, what they did. I'm not looking to get into lawsuits, but I think I have an obligation to do it. This was so egregious. If you don't do it, you don't stop it from happening again. And I wonder if they've done it, we'll find this out. You know, the nice part about litigation is we'll find out how many times have they done it to other people.
That full interview will be shared on GB News shortly. In a major shake-up, people granted asylum in the UK will only be allowed to stay temporarily. The Home Secretary is set to announce reforms modelled on the Danish system next week, aiming to make the UK less attractive for illegal immigrants and make it easier to deport them. Currently, those granted refugee status have it for 5 years and then can apply for indefinite leave to remain. Under the new rules, they'll be returned to their home country as soon as it's considered safe. The Chancellor is set to announce so-called stealth taxes in the upcoming budget after she abandoned plans to raise income tax rates. Rachel Reeves is expected to extend the freeze on income tax thresholds until the end of the decade. That move could push more than 10 million people into higher rate tax bands and bring all state pensioners into paying income tax by 2027. Reeves is also preparing a new levy on middle-class homeowners, introducing a £600 million surcharge on high-value properties. London and the South East will be hardest hit. In South Wales, Fire and Rescue have declared a major incident in Monmouth after Storm Claudia caused severe and widespread flooding. Emergency services have been working through the night to evacuate people at risk and are urging others to avoid the area if possible. 4 severe flood warnings remain in place for Monmouthshire, meaning there's a significant risk to life. Meanwhile, thousands in Ireland are without power. Authorities there say the risk of flooding will remain even after weather alerts have lifted this afternoon. You're up to date. I'll have more for you at past.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Honestly, the people I have to work with behind the scenes, if you could see the state of them. Any case, thank you very much, Bethany. Well-read headlines there. Now, we have got a cracking show for you. You really don't want to move. You can't afford to move a muscle. I'm not even kidding. In a world-exclusive interview inside the White House, Donald Trump has vowed to continue pursuing legal action against the BBC for the way it edited that speech he made on January the 6th, 2021, which gave the impression he had made a direct call for violent action against US politicians in the White House. Now, the US president sat down with GB News' very own Bev Turner. She did a cracking job, I'm telling you, how hard-working that girl is, and telling her he has an obligation to sue the corporation, warning this is beyond fake, this is corrupt. Have a listen.
Mr. President, thank you for giving GB News this opportunity to talk to you and to hear from you. We've spent some time on your trips to the UK recently and had some conversations, but this is the first time we're getting to sit down and talk. And I've spent a little while in America now and have been really struck by the sense of positivity here, the can-do attitude. Is really in contrast to the UK and more broadly Europe, actually, which feels like it's in the doldrums at the moment, economically, socially, really struggling.
Right.
And that's been a long-term project, I think. But you've proven that leaders don't just have to sit around writing strongly worded letters. You can actually get stuff done in a short space of time. How have you done it?
Well, if you look, you talk about Europe and other places, but this was a place that was moribund. It was a disaster, the U.S., under the Biden administration. And there was no spirit. Nobody wanted to go into the military. You know, the recruitment was at record lows. Everything that was bad, it just couldn't get, I don't think, much worse outside of a total collapse. And we've turned it around. You know, it's my 10th month. And I think nobody's done what I've done. It's the hottest country in the world right now. The U.S. right now is the hottest country in the world. The King of Saudi Arabia, other leaders, they said, a year ago your country was dead, and now you have the hottest country in the world, so it can be done. I'm so saddened to see what happened in Europe with the immigration. I think above all else the immigration, but the bad taxing policies. When you look at, you know, Europe is not the same place.
No.
I can't say every place, but pretty much almost every place. There are a couple of places, and I won't even get into that because those are the people, the leaders that aren't liked by the other European leaders.
Yeah.
But what's happened is so sad to Europe. And I think probably you have the same problem that we do with the fake news. You know, if you don't get the news out and properly, it's never going to change. But Europe, I love Europe. Hey, I'm originally from
Scotland,
right?
yeah.
And between Scotland
mother.
and Germany, right?
Yeah.
A German father and
Yeah.
Scottish mother. And a great mother, by the way, I have to tell you, great father, great mother. So I have a little prejudice toward Europe and those two places,
Yeah.
but it's so sad to see what they're doing.
So how have you done it? Is it about your team, your vision, your drive? You know, from day one you were signing executive orders.
Yeah.
The pace of change here is remarkable. I almost don't know what you're going to do for the next few years. You've done so much in such a short space of time.
Well, we have a strong border.
Yeah.
We have a lot of spirit. DEI is dead. It's dead. It's not even talked about anymore.
Yeah.
You know, like I saw this morning on television, a well-known Democrat congressman fighting with the anchor, somebody like you but not as talented, because you wouldn't have let him get away with it, but fighting with over men playing in women's sports. I said they haven't learned, because we won in a landslide. We won everything. We won all 7 swing states. We won by millions of votes, popular vote. We won in every way you could win, in like record numbers. And I see this man fighting with an anchor about men playing in women's sports. Here we go again. About open borders. He wants open borders where people can come in from prisons. I mean, when you look at Europe, where they're coming from some of the worst places on earth, and you're destroying your country. And I've told some of the leaders of Europe, you've got to stop. Your immigration is going to destroy you. If you get people from the wrong people, in our case, we had people coming in from jails, from mental institutions, from the drug dealers, and some of the worst scum, and we're getting them out, and we've got a lot of them out. If you look at some of our cities that we've, sent the military in to correct, Washington, D.C. was very unsafe, and now it's the safest place in the country. It took me 2 months to make it good, less actually, but 2 months to make it really good now. Everyone's having dinners there. We have these beautiful, nice military guys all over the place. And they look good. To me they look good because it means safety. But we took out 1,700 career criminals and criminals from other countries that came in like they come into your country. And Europe has to do something about it. Well, we are doing something. Even Chicago, we have a bad governor and a bad mayor, and we're fighting with them all the time. But crime is down now 40%. And we've just done a little splurge. And crime is down 40%. In Memphis, we're in Memphis right now, Memphis, Tennessee, very, very dangerous, bad place. We've almost got it fixed, and this is after a month, less than a month. What it shows is it can be done. And Washington, D.C. is such a great example because people were afraid to walk outside, and now they're walking down with their children in the middle of the street.
I'm a big fan of the National Guard here.
Right.
I'm pretty much on first name terms with the guys on the corner of my street, and they're so friendly, and you see them putting shopping in the car of old women, and it counters this idea that they're an aggressive presence on the street. They're not. We've got such a crime problem in London, and I wonder whether Sadiq Khan should do something similar.
He's a terrible, terrible mayor. And as an example, I was a high-ranking officer, sort of always, or a president. Even as a civilian, I was a respected person. He treated me very badly. I said, who is that guy? He's a terrible mayor, and look at the crime you have in London. My mother loved London. She loved that city. She'd always talk about, that was a different London than you have today. Today you have people being stabbed in the ass, or worse. But no, it's crazy.
It's true. It's awful.
Crazy.
It is. It feels much safer here.
Your mayor is a disaster. Okay, I can. I don't know him. I don't even know what. If you put him there, I wouldn't even know who he was. I can tell you, he is a disaster.
Yeah.
He's a nasty person. And he's letting crime go. You have areas in London, and you have this in Paris too, where the police don't even want to go anywhere near those areas. You have Sharia law, where they don't even want to obey the laws of, your country or France or other countries. And you have much worse conditions than even that. It's crazy what's gone on with Europe. And, I'll do this interview. I hope it's not too controversial because, to be honest with you, it's just fact. It's not like there should be no controversy. And they have to do something. One other thing, energy. Your country has the North Sea. It's one of the greatest energy fields in the world. They make it impossible for anybody to drill environmentally. They make it, and taxation-wise. They want almost 100% of the money that comes out. So you have these great oil companies that can't go there because, and you know, then they say, well, it's been there a long time, it's used. You've got 1,000 years of life there. That's one of the most vibrant, and it's also some of the best oil. You know, it's really, you know, you have good oil, medium oil, but you have some of the best oil. Some of it's so good you almost don't have to refine it. It's so good. You have this huge asset sitting there, and you're destroying your country with windmills all over the place. I mean, I fly over Scotland, and I fly over parts of the UK in helicopter a lot. And I'm looking down and I see these gorgeous fields being destroyed by windmills. The most expensive energy you can get. It's intermittent because if it's not windy, you don't even get it. But to put up those things means you lose millions of dollars every time you put up a windmill. You lose millions of dollars because they don't make money, they lose money. You're supposed to make money with energy. You have, boy, do you have an asset.
Yeah.
If they would open up the North Sea again, you could open it up in split seconds. Every oil company would want it. Look at Norway as an example. Norway is a very rich country. They have the North Sea too. They say you have the best part of it. Who knows? But Norway's immensely wealthy because of the North Sea, same North Sea as you have. Why don't they do something? Why don't they supply your country? You know, your energy costs are among the highest in the world. It's crazy.
It's got to be because there is this assumption that the climate is warming up because of man, and that we have to have more renewables. And renewables, in principle, sound like a great idea. Use the sea and the
Beautiful
wind.
words, a disaster. And you know, when they talk about the climate, the whole thing is a hoax. They used to say it was started by other countries to cause problems, and they used to call it global warming, but that didn't work because it started getting colder. They even called it many years ago global cooling, but those things don't work. So now they call it climate change, because with climate change you can't lose. The whole thing is a hoax. And your country, among others, but your country is one of the worst. You talk about UK, it's one of the worst in the world. They believe this nonsense, this fiction. As an example, China, very smart. They sell the windmills, almost all of them. It used to be Germany and China, now it's mostly China. And yet, if you go around China, you see almost no wind farms. So they make the windmills and they sell it to the suckers, you know, the stupid people. But they don't have them themselves. They use oil and gas, they use coal, but they don't use the wind.
But I think it takes real backbone as a country's leader to stand up in a room like you did in New York with the UN. Which was, for me, it was one of the greatest moments. I could have watched
Without
that speech.
Without a teleprompter.
I loved it. It was brilliant.
They took away my teleprompter purposely.
It was a joy to watch because you dropped so many truth bombs on that room of globalists.
I had no script.
It was just
Can you
brilliant.
imagine? The UN took away my teleprompter.
I know.
Just before I got up, I said, I'm being introduced. I say, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the United States of America, President Donald Trump, and I'm looking at him saying...
After the escalator had already broken as well on the way up.
The escalator stopped, and it didn't stop like, you know, it stopped. And I had my wife in front of me, fortunately. I just grabbed, but it came to a sudden halt, like you heard the crash. So that was the beginning of the day, and then I got on there, and I'll tell you something that nobody knows. The speakers in the room were off. So the only people that heard me were people either listening to television, which is still your biggest audience, but we had 158 leaders in the room, and unless they were wearing the earphones, you couldn't hear a word that I said. In fact, I went out, I thought I gave a good speech considering the fact I had absolutely, it was terrible.
I loved it because I thought you were relating in that moment to so many people watching at home, and particularly in Great Britain, who were agreeing with what you were saying about the destruction of Europe and the scam of net zero, and yet everybody in that room seems to disagree with you. Is it just that there's a lack of
leaders?
No,
the people in the room didn't disagree. The leaders didn't disagree, but they don't like bringing it up.
This is what I'm saying. Is this the problem, that nobody has the backbone to be the person to put their hand up and say, we know that you don't all believe in this, but you're all going along with it. But why? Why are they going along with it?
Well, you know, in some cases, all right, some countries don't really have a choice. They have, you know, they don't have oil. The UK has one of the greatest fields anywhere in the world, and you don't use it. You know, I was approached by the oilmen that used to be there, and it's hurt the towns and the surrounding areas. It's hurt everything. But I was approached by the oilmen, and they said, "Sir, can you help us? We have the greatest oil in the world, and they won't let us use it. They won't let us use. If you had some other country with that kind of, including China, look, China doesn't have real energy. They have a lot of energy as people. They have a great energy, right? And they're great. But China doesn't have any oil. They have to go get it. And they used to get a lot of it from you. They don't do that anymore because you don't do it. Your whole economy would change, you know, because oil is so much bigger than any other subject in terms of economic wealth and in terms of lifestyle and living.
And underpinning the success of a country.
Well, you have beautiful, clean, really incredible oil and gas, and it's sitting there, and it saddens me. You know, I have, in Aberdeen, I have a tremendous project, and I own Turnberry too, and I own, in Ireland, I own Doonbeg, so I have 3 very great projects. And I look and I say, the value that is being wasted in this country, it's so sad. I mean, and you can only say it so much, you know, how much you're gonna, it's not your country. You feel badly saying it, you're telling somebody else what they're doing. You're sitting there with the greatest, one of the greatest oil fields in the world, and you're not using it. And when the oil, when Exxon, when these big companies want to use it, they're rebuffed, they're told no. And you're putting up windmills all over. You're killing all the birds, by the way. They're ugly as hell. They make noise. They're very unsafe, and they produce. Every time that thing goes around, it loses money. You
can't recycle them. It's landfill at the end of the day.
Remember this: after 10 years, you have to take them down and put new ones up because they only have a certain life.
Awful.
It's hard to believe.
Now, unfortunately, even though there are so many topics we could talk about, we have to tackle the issue of the BBC and this defamation case. Can I just ask you, how did you feel when you were first shown the footage or told about this edit, which the BBC say is unintentional to depict you in that way? But how do you feel about it?
Do they say it's unintentional? Well, then they're stupid to say that. You know, they wrote me a letter of apology, as you know.
How was it?
But then it's fine, but what is it?
Yeah.
It's fine. They wrote me a nice letter. We apologize. But when you say it's unintentional, I guess if it's unintentional, you don't apologize, right? You know, I made a beautiful statement, and they made it into a not beautiful statement. And now I hear, just before this interview, I was told, somebody said, "Sir, you're not going to believe it. BBC did it again. They found another place, I think at a totally different..."
On Newsnight.
Yeah, totally different place. That they did it again. It's not even believable. You know, I just settled with 60 Minutes in I guess it's based in New York, CBS, because they had Kamala the night or 2 nights before the election. Her answer was so bad, it was election interfering. Okay, that's how bad it was. And they took her answer out, and they gave her a totally different answer using her. At least they used her.
Yeah.
But they took it from 20 minutes or something later in the interview. In other words, they took some other answer to a totally different question. And it was still a lousy answer, but it wasn't election threatening, right?
Yeah.
And we just settled that case. But that's not as bad as what BBC did. BBC actually, I mean, as bad as that was, they took her, and her answer was terrible. It was long, horrible, stupid, so stupid. It would, if anybody listening to it would have voted for Trump. Most of them did anyway, fortunately. But what happened is they threw it out. Just threw it out, and they took another one. They asked a question, they put a totally different answer. And through a series of weird events, just like the BBC was how we found out about it, one of their competitors reported it, how they found out about it. You got to give them credit. But in the 60 Minute thing, we found out because they advertised it in a commercial, and they used a little bit of that first answer. And then we found out, well, but that wasn't on the show. It was a totally different answer. We found out through talent and luck. But BBC, what they did is worse.
And if it wasn't for the Daily Telegraph in the UK shining a light on this story, and then other channels...
You got to hand it to them.
Running with it. And
was that the Daily Telegraph?
It was the Daily Telegraph that initially did...
I assume they're enemies.
The expose.
They are now.
Of the BBC?
Yes.
Well, think they're part of the establishment media in the UK, and they've been there for many years. They're very
But they were incensed by
respected.
it. Daily Telegraph.
They were angry, I think, on your behalf of that depiction. How easy was that decision to pursue legal action? You could have maybe picked up the phone to Prime Minister Starmer and just said, "Can you have a word with someone at the BBC?" Or were you quite resolute that this is something?
I don't even know if the BBC is owned by, what percentage is owned, or if any is owned by your government. I don't know.
It's funded predominantly by the British taxpayer, so we have to pay.
Well, the British taxpayer has to have a big problem with it, because it's strange.
And for somebody
that's been a big story over in your country?
A very big story.
It's a big story over here. It's the biggest story over here.
Yeah, the Director General has resigned, the Head of News has resigned over this. You've had the letter from the Chair of the BBC apologising. But how far are you prepared to push it? Because you've invented the phrase fake news. You invented that more than 10 years ago, probably now.
It's fake news.
Fake news. So did this feel like a smoking gun when for years you've been frustrated with the depiction of you that isn't accurate?
I think I've proven fake news, because they used to have high approval ratings, the media, and now they have the lowest. I think they're lower than Congress, which is pretty good. So, now, fake news was a great term, except it's not strong enough. I'd like it to be stronger. The word fake is one thing, but this is beyond fake. This is corrupt, what they did. So, no, the lawyers walked in and said, "Sir, you're not going to believe this." And they showed, I didn't hear about it, but lawyers walked in and they just said, the White House lawyers, they're government lawyers, actually, and they walked in and they said, "Sir, you're not going to believe this." I said, "What is it?" And they show me the one, and then they show me the other. And it's not even close, it's different words. It looks like actually the same mouth movement. Who would be able to even find this? Somebody did an amazing job to be able to, but it's a totally different meaning and totally different words. So.
And as somebody that understands television, I always think, when I watch you, I think you have certain different hats you put on. You've got your TV guy, you've got your property developer guy,
a lot of hats,
talking about the ballroom, which I think is brilliant. And then you've got your father hat on, where you've got this amazing family. But in this instance, are you looking at it through your sort of telly guy eyes as well, and thinking, if you'd worked on a show where they'd edited something together like that, it just wouldn't get past the editorial process?
Well, I did say that. That was my first thing. I said, who would do this? I've never heard of this one before. You worry about AI because things like this can happen, with their different geniuses. I mean, you can do things. I've seen things that are incredible. But you can't imagine that BBC did this somewhat crudely, actually.
Yeah.
It was done sort of crudely.
They'd clipped together, hadn't they, two parts of the speech that were nearly an hour apart.
It's incredible.
To depict the idea that you had given this aggressive speech which led to this riot.
And one making you into a bad guy, and the other one was, my statement was a very calming statement. It's pretty incredible. I mean, I couldn't believe it, actually. I've been doing this for a long time. I've never seen anything like that. That's the most egregious. I think that was worse than the Kamala thing with CBS and 60 Minutes.
How far will you push it? Because they haven't offered, our understanding is they've offered no money whatsoever. They've apologised in a letter, but they haven't offered you a penny in compensation. There was this figure of $1 billion that you may be pursuing.
I think I have an obligation to do it. Look, I'm not looking to get into lawsuits, but I think I have an obligation to do it. This was so egregious. If you don't do it, you don't stop it from happening again with other people. I think you probably have an obligation. I'd like to find out why they did it. It's so bad.
Yeah.
Who thinks like this? And I wonder if they've done it. We'll find this out. The nice part about litigation is we'll find out how many times have they done it to other people. Maybe they did it to me quite a bit. Because I've gotten a lot of publicity over there before. I was getting in Aberdeen, which is such a great place. I went through, years of permitting and everything else to build 2 great golf courses, and I did it really as almost art more than anything else. I mean, I do it for the art. I'm lucky I can do that, right? But it's beautiful, and owning Turnberry and having the great Turnberry, which is so beautiful, and so I know your country so well, and the fact that my mother was You know, my mother was a great fan of the Queen. Anytime the Queen was on, she said, "Excuse me, don't talk. We have to listen to the Queen." She loved the Queen and the royal family. And, you know, we were honored just recently by King Charles and the family, the royal family. And they couldn't be nicer. It was great. That was an amazing few days.
The state visit was beautiful. I've never seen anything like it.
Beautiful.
It was incredible.
The whole thing was, it couldn't have been more beautiful. That room with the long table, right?
It was amazing.
I've never seen a room. I got to build one of them someday.
OK, we will be coming back to the rest of that now, but joining me now to have a little chit-chat about it is a former mayor of Middlesbrough and political commentator, Andy Preston. Andy, thank you so much for coming in. Cracking interview. I think Bev has done an impossible job in really trying circumstances. She's got him relaxed, she's got him chatting. As a journalist, I think you're halfway there if you can do that, and he's obviously got a very warm relationship, and that doesn't come easy, so fair play to Bev doing a cracking job there. What do you make of what you've heard Donald Trump say so far?
Well, it's great to see Trump opening up and to see a softer, more human side. He didn't seem to be performing.
No.
So we've got a bit of an insight, which is really great. He said a lot of really powerful things, hasn't he? Really strong things. The big story is the BBC. I mean, look, this horrendous act, this desperately bad thing that the BBC did, and did deliberately, he is the victim. He has been wronged. He's won, though, and he's won, Dawn, because he has got the headline. He won his election anyway. He has now mobilised even more support. People that were on the fence probably now see that there are sometimes conspiracies against him, and his threats to the BBC will grow because every time he does it, he gets more attention, and people remind him that he's the victim. And I think for a man who wants to hide and keep quiet the links about Epstein, or when they emerge to rubbish them, being able to show the conspiracy at the BBC against him, he can link the two and talk about fake news. So this is a gift for Trump.
They have literally handed it on a plate, haven't they? Tim? You know, and sort of like, you know, this is corrupt, or you know, this is beyond fake. I mean, very, very strong language there about the BBC. Andy, we have to go back to it. Thank you very much for coming in and joining. That was a flying visit there. OK, the US president told GBNews presenter, "I'm saddened to see what has happened in Europe with the immigration." And I think a lot of you already are agreeing with that one. In any case, here's the second half of our world-exclusive interview with President Donald Trump.
Of Scotland, for instance, they average age, life expectancy in the east end of Glasgow now is 57 for men.
Wow.
It's lower than some sub-Saharan African countries, but there's a drug problem, an alcohol problem, health problem. And
well, you'd think it would be the opposite. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
The air is so good. The air is so clean. You know, everything is so good.
But if you were parachuted into Scotland tomorrow to save your ancestral homeland, what would you do? Where would you start?
Well, it's so amazing that when you tell me this, because you would think that you would live forever because it's so beautiful. Now, it becomes less beautiful because of the windmills. It really does. But you would think that they'd have... Now, at the same time, they have a hard life economically. You know, there's not great economics there. You know, Sean Connery was sort of a friend of mine, and he was a great guy. And I used to sometimes call him the king because he was so, but I spent years getting zoning in Aberdeen in particular. Turnberry was different because it was built and we've made it incredible, more incredible than it even was, and it's unique. But with Aberdeen, you were starting right from the beginning, and I was having a hard time getting the zoning. And it wasn't like my real business. It was a piece of art, the most beautiful dunes, I think, in the world. And I was into it for maybe 3 or 4 years. And Sean Connery was in Scotland, and he said, "Let the bloody bloke build his bloody golf courses. He's an American. He wants to invest money in Scotland," he said. "In Scotland, let him build his bloody golf courses." Do you know that after he did that, I got my approvals in like 2 minutes. And
you've just won a record for having the best golf course in the world, I believe.
It just was rated one of the best golf courses in the world. But think of Sean Connery, no longer with us.
Yeah.
But he said, "Let him build his bloody golf." In other words, I'm investing money in Scotland.
Yeah.
And he was right. But he was so respected.
Yeah.
Everything, it was crazy. I said, you're the greatest zoning lawyer in the world. My zoning lawyers can't do anything, but you just make one statement. He was great. He was a great character, too. He was a great actor.
It's one of the things I've noticed about being here is this sense of patriotism which you've revived, this period of renewal. You've even got record numbers of people signing up for the armed forces.
That's right.
They love this country so much, they're volunteering to prepare to die for America. That's what any leader of a country would want.
Yeah.
In the UK, we've got a resurgence at the moment with people putting Union Jacks and St George's flags around on motorway bridges outside houses, and then councillors are taking them down, and it's become a bit of a battleground because we've got this timidity about who is the British people, who are we, what does it mean to be British? And so how would you define American patriotism, and what can we learn?
Well, the thing I'm most proud of is that 2 years ago, we couldn't get people to join the military, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, Space Force. That was mine. We started the Space Force, so I have a pride in it. But you couldn't get anybody to join. Even the police, you couldn't get them to go into the police. You couldn't get them into the fire departments. We have a lot of people, right? And I guess 350. Of course, we never know because they allowed so many in. You know, it's so horrible, but I stopped it. You know, we have the strongest borders anywhere in the world right now. And we had the weakest borders in the world a year ago. So I think that one of the things I'm most proud about today, to get into the military is hard. It's like getting into the best college because everybody wants to be in the military. That took place 1 year. Think of it. 1 year ago, you couldn't get them, and now it's like resurgent. Maybe we'll open up our military even, let more people in. But today it's considered a prestigious job, a wonderful job. Everybody wants to be. You heard the story. We had the best recruitment numbers in the history of our country. And a year ago, we had the worst. So it can take place fast, but they're proud of the country. I mean, I talk about the country. We have the strongest military in the world. We make the best military equipment. And by the way, we sell a lot to you. And we have a great relationship with your country. But I want your country to do really well. I want your country to do better.
I know. There is a sense that we are struggling with our identity, who we are. Are we the kind of country that looks to the government to give people a handout if they haven't got a job? Are we encouraging people to go back to work?
Well, your energy costs are among the highest in the world. And yet you're sitting there with the greatest energy field in the world, one of them, one of the top 3 or 4. And you should have the lowest energy, not the highest energy.
How have you done that on the border? Because we watch in the UK, repeatedly illegal migration comes up at the top of people's concerns in Great Britain. And it's not that we're not a generous country, and we've always taken refugees.
I know, you feel badly about it, but you have no choice. You have a country to run.
But no one has any money. And so when you have people have paid into the system, the elderly have paid into the system all their lives, and they're on a waiting list to get a new knee for a year, and yet they see people arriving illegally, being given accommodation, food, you know.
You have to take them out, you have to take them back immediately. Don't forget, 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, we were having millions of people pour through our borders. You know what we have now for the last 6 months? Zero.
It's incredible.
0. So we were very tough at the border. We would take people immediately back, and I had the military as a backup. Because you've seen this thing, we were trying to break down the fences and everything else. And we don't play games with our military. And we won a Supreme Court that was a Supreme Court case where things are based on merit. That means the military, too. And a military has to be a certain type. We can all be politically correct and say, you know, everybody should be in the military, everybody should. Well, you have people that are born for things and people that aren't, okay? And that means good and bad. We have an amazing military now. We have people that look like they're supposed to be soldiers, and they don't play games. That's how D.C. is so strong now. You know, we had thugs, we had gangs, and we had people that were afraid to go and talk to them. Now you have guys that don't even do the talking. They just walk in. It's like unbelievable.
So do you think we should...
And we throw them out, we bring them out, they throw them out, they bring them back to Venezuela, they bring them back to different countries where they came from, and they're told never to come back.
Do you think we could probably do something similar, which is to put the military...
Identical.
...on the coast?
Identical. And you have an advantage because actually, you know, you have so much sea. Because sea is sort of a protector. Now, you know, sometimes they come in by boat, but it's a protection. You could do the same thing. You know, Biden, Sleepy Joe Biden, one of the worst, definitely the worst president in the history of our country, but a man who didn't do a good job in any way. But, you know, he said, I can't stop the people from coming in because I need an act of Congress. And I can't get it. He said, you don't need an act of Congress. All you have to do is say, nobody comes into, I didn't get an act of Congress. So I had a very safe border the first time, the first 4 years, but now I have a really safe border. But I didn't have to go to Congress to do that. You're the president. It's a very strong presidency, and you say, stop the people from coming in. And they listen to me, and nobody comes in. I mean, literally nobody, other than if they come in legally. We have a good process for coming in. You have to learn, you have to, you know, you have to show that you can love the country. Biden was just a terrible president. You know, what he did with inflation, what he did with other things was that we had the highest inflation in the history of the country. Now we have almost no inflation. But what he did with allowing millions of people to come in. Now the difference is I'm moving them out, I'm getting them out. And we're doing with the worst ones first. We had 11,888 murderers. Think of that, 11,888 murderers. Largely, for the most part, they're gone. Yeah. And some of them murdered more than one person, and they're gone. You have the same exact thing. You have people coming in from parts of the world. You better do, you know, this interview is good for one thing. You better do something about immigration, because it's more important than inflation. You know, inflation you can solve. But when you have people coming into your country, and they're bad people, the wrong people, it doesn't work, and it's not working. If you don't get them out, you're not going to have a country left.
When you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, like we all do, what do you worry about? What keeps you awake at night? When you, I mean, I don't think you sleep for a start, because I've seen your schedule and you don't really bother with sleep.
We have plenty of time to sleep later on.
Yeah.
Lots of time. We have infinity. But no, I think that, you know, I had an expression when I first ran, "Make America Great Again," right? Very simple expression. I think in political history it's the best ever used, maybe beyond the United States, maybe. I think about that. I just want to make America great again. It's like, I don't want to be politically correct. I don't want to be, I'm sort of conservative, I guess, but that's because policies tend to be like conservative. You know, you want strong borders, you want good education, you want a powerful military, you want, you know, different things. Yeah. But the expression really says it all. Make America great again. You should have the same expression in your country. Make the UK great again. You know, you have so many terms. You have England, you have Britain, you have the UK, you have, but whatever you want to use. You want to make it great again.
But we're not alone in Europe. That leaders of European countries, and particularly the UK, are incredibly squeamish about the suggestion that their people are more important than people coming from other countries. Why?
Well, you don't have that in all cases. Look, in the case of Hungary, you have a man named Viktor Orban, who the other leaders hate, but who does a fabulous job. You know how many people he's allowed into his country?
Go on.
0. And he's got no problems. He has taken some Ukrainians, you know, from the war, but basically 0. You know, the Ukrainians, they blend in. He's allowed nobody to come in. You had a couple of, Poland, I think, has done a very good job.
Similar.
Poland's been great, and the man who won the election, who's fantastic, was not expected to even come close. It was one of many people running. And through a friend of his and a friend of mine, a mutual friend, I endorsed him, and he won the election. So it was a pretty big upset. But he's fantastic. He's going to be a great president. But Poland doesn't take people in. There are some countries that just refuse to do it.
Yeah, we're not one of them.
No, you are not one of them.
We are not. You've had a phenomenal success with solving conflicts, and the peace president is one of the names I know that you hear quite a lot. Russia-Ukraine remains intractable and irritating for you, I imagine.
It is.
What might be the key leverage left with Putin?
So I settled 8 wars, and I have 1 to go. And, you know, last week they say, during the last month actually, 25,000 soldiers were killed between the two countries. Fairly evenly split. Think of it. 25,000 young, now they're getting older, by the way, I must tell you, but young soldiers were killed. It would have never happened if I were president. I thought I have a very good relationship with President Putin. I thought that was going to be my easier, an easier one.
Yeah.
Because I solved some of the wars were going, in one case 32 years, in one case 36 years, and I got them settled in like 2 days. I'm very proud of that. I just had one where today, I think I settled one today, another one. But we just about exhausted the supply of wars. I didn't know there were so many wars, if you look at it. But even if you look at India and Pakistan, nuclear nations, and they were going at it. They were really going at it. 8 planes were shot down. They were really, and they, who knows what happens with the powerful nuclear weapons. And I said, look, if you're going to go and fight, I'm not going to make any trade deals with you guys. And I put tariffs and did all sorts of things. And within 48 hours, I got that taken care of. They're good. And that's a big thing. But I did that 8 times. The one I haven't done yet is Russia and Ukraine. It should have never started. It's a bloodbath. It is a terrible bloodbath. There are so many soldiers. Not since the Second World War has anything been like that. It's going to happen. I hope it's going to happen soon. We're putting a lot of pressure on them, with India and the oil, and India is now pulling out, and others are pulling out, because as Russia sells oil, they have money to do things.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to get it done, but it's a shame.
Yeah. If I can just bring you back to the BBC, where do you see this going now, President Trump? Do you see this being a long, legal, protracted conflict with the BBC? Would you like to see it tied up quickly?
Well, they've admitted their guilt, but they don't have to admit their guilt. It's on tape, there's nothing to admit. No, I think very shortly we have a statutory period. We've notified them by writing, and I think you have to wait a week. And so that time's coming up, and after that time comes up, we'll sue them. My lawyers say for $1 billion or more, and we'll see how it all works out. But I can't imagine they could do very well in that lawsuit. What they've done is incredible. I sort of have an obligation, not that I want to do it, I have an obligation to do it. So I've been doing this for a long time, and I've understood, and nobody understands the press, because I'm the one that explained to people it's fake news. But and I hate when people say, oh, I understand the press, because they're fools, because nobody really understands. The press doesn't understand itself. But I will say, I think I have an obligation to bring a major lawsuit against the BBC, because what they did is impossible to believe. You would have never even thought that. Even the Kamala thing, to a certain extent, was so bad, but you could see how it could happen.
Yeah. And it's the idea, I suppose, that you're doing it not just for you, because your feeling is, well, if they could misrepresent me in that way, they could misrepresent anybody in that way.
Well, they can be doing it. And one of the things we'll find out during this litigation, through depositions and everything, is how many other times have they done it to your prime minister? Have they done it to Nigel? Have they done it to, the people that are in your country? The answer is probably yes, but we'll be finding out a lot of things over the next few months. And one of the things, your litigation moves a little bit quickly in your country. So I think it's going to go fairly quickly, although I don't know that we bring it there. We probably bring it someplace in the U.S. from our standpoint.
And you've had success with suing media companies before on behalf of you, and also Melania as well.
Yeah, that's true. And Melania's had success. No, we've had a lot of success because it's fake news. But I've never had anything so fake as the BBC.
Yeah. You're obviously a really good dad. Your children really like you, which is obvious. And
or love.
Or love you, but everybody loves their parents, but they don't all like their parents.
That's true.
When they're adults. And they clearly have so much respect and warmth towards you. And I often think, watching you, that actually being a good president is a bit like being a good father.
Yeah.
Tough love, clear boundaries, in the interests of the people that you're looking after. Does it ever occur to you how much the role is like being a father, being a president?
I've never thought of it that way. I can't believe I'm getting a question I've never thought of or never been asked before. If you think about it, I love this country, I love the people of the country, but people do say, what do you recommend for growing your children? And I've seen so many children, I've seen so many brilliant children of brilliant people go bad and become tremendous failures. And I find that so much of it's caused by drugs, alcohol, different substances. And I always would say to my kids, no drugs, no alcohol, no cigarettes. I'd say no cigarettes too. It's not of the same, but it's, if you can avoid it. Because if you don't start it, you don't have a longing. I mean, I have friends that long to have a cigarette. Yeah. They quit smoking, but they long, and they see somebody with a cigarette, it's like they're caged lunatics, okay? But even more so with drugs and alcohol. And I would always tell my kids no drugs, because no drugs or alcohol. I said, over the years, I've seen really smart parents have really brilliant kids, and the kids are a disaster because they got hooked in drugs. And when you're hooked, it's hard to get off. And if you never start them, like I've never had a drink in my life, and I don't take drugs. Yeah. I have no longing, but people that do, the drugs they don't talk about as much, but when they see, when you have a person that suffered with the alcohol curse, and they're out to dinner and they see, some of your wonderful whiskey or whatever. Yeah. When they see that coming down the plank, they say, oh man, does that look good? If you never start, it's so easy. No, I have other problems. I got plenty of problems like everybody else, but it's just not a problem that I have. And I always say no drugs, no alcohol, no cigarettes. Ivanka said to me once, she said, Dad, you're driving me crazy. Stop saying that. I'd say it all the time. Whenever I see him, no drugs, no alcohol, no cigarettes. So I think it worked, but who knows? You never know.
And now a grandfather, of course. How much do you enjoy that job?
I do. I have beautiful kids. I have wonderful kids, wonderful grandchildren. I have a good family. Yeah.
Well, lovely to sit down and talk with you.
Thank you very much.
Have a lovely weekend.
Well, you too, and good luck with oil, energy, and illegal immigration.
Thank you.
Okay, and that is it. That is the full, exclusive interview with Bev Turner and Donald Trump in the White House there. Let me know what you think of it. I just want to read one very quick message out, come back to Andy Preston to comment on it. This is a message from Anna. What a lovely, natural interview with Mr. Trump. Very respectful and easy to listen to. Well done, Bev. And I love the photo of you and Mr. Trump in the White House as well. I'll bet you frame that one on your wall. Well done with the interview. Truly refreshing. Lots of you agreeing with that. But on the other hand, lots of people disagreeing. Let me know. gbnews.com/your say. Andy, you don't have to message in. You can literally talk to me. Yeah. Andy, I've never heard Trump, I think, talk so naturally for that length of time. There was no auto cue. There was no script. It was just a very relaxed and fair play to Bev. That's one of the hardest parts of interviewing somebody like Donald Trump, is to get them that relaxed. What did you make of what you heard in the second half?
Again, really interesting. It was brilliant the way he was relaxed. We got an insight into him. Yes. He didn't clam up. He wasn't angry. So that was really interesting. Whether you love Trump or you hate him, he says stuff that he believes, and he says stuff that resonates with big numbers of people. And when he talked about immigration there, Dawn, that was strong stuff. Yes. But you know what? He is right, is that mass immigration on a rapid scale has changed the face of Britain. It's changed the face of Europe. It's destabilised the people who were here already. It's changed communities and it's put all kinds of pressure. And it's created a sense of decline and being out of control. And I think he's right to bring this up. And it's fascinating to me because 10 years ago, no one would dare say it. Absolutely. It's now OK. And that's one of the great things, because we do need to talk about this, don't we?
Very much so. And if we don't talk about it, then it goes underground and you get more hatred and division on both sides. I think we do need to talk about it. And I thought one of the interesting points he made was sort of like, when he said that Europe has been ruined by mass migration. And, we've used the military in America. And Bev goes, well, is that something we should do here in the UK? And he goes, yeah, use the military. You've got a natural defence.
Absolutely. I mean, I would love to see, obviously we have to be careful who we let into the military, but we have recruitment problems. Yes. So why don't we in the military, why don't we encourage people who've moved here, second-generation immigrants, to actually get involved and make a real push? And, of course, that's when you see if people are really bought in. If they're saying, I can't represent your country, they don't really belong. So I really believe in using the military. But we need people to feel invested and belong here. And it's going to take a lot of work. But I think that what we've got to do is slow immigration down hugely and work on what we have before we start letting more people in.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you very much, Andy. It was always a joy to talk to you. Thank you very much. That is former Mayor of Middlesbrough and political commentator Andy Preston. Now, in a letter sent to the President on Thursday, the BBC said, while the BBC sincerely regrets the manner in which the video clip was edited, we strongly disagree there is a basis for a defamation claim. OK, I'm Dawn Neeson and this is GB News, and loads more coming up on today's show, so you don't want to go anywhere. And remember, let me know what you think about Bev's, I think, brilliant interview, gbnews.com/your say. We'll be coming back to your comments and loads of other stuff after this very latest weather forecast. And I think it's actually, we're seeing the tail end of that storm, are we? Here's the details.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Over the weekend, cloudy skies will soon clear to sunshine. Feeling cold though, particularly in some brisk northerly winds. Back to this evening though, and this area of low pressure just off the Bay of Biscay will still continue to bring us some cloud and also some drizzly conditions, particularly across Northern Ireland, northern areas of England to start. But plenty of cloud will clear to the south, allowing some clearer skies across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England. So feeling chillier here, and likely we'll see a widespread frost across Scotland. But with cloudier skies to the south, that will keep temperatures up, so not turning quite as chilly here. Lows reaching around 9 to 10 degrees across the far south, but likely dipping below freezing across many areas of the north. Then to start the day on Sunday, there will be plenty of bright skies across Scotland. That's away from the far north though, more cloud pushing in here and also some showers, but it's certainly going to be a chilly start with some frost in places. Quite a chilly start across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, and similar here too. Plenty of bright skies to start the day. As we head further south though, more clouds, some grey skies, possibly some fog in places and also some drizzly conditions. But the good news is it is brightening up for many areas. Most of this cloud sinking towards the south, so remaining quite cloudy across many southern counties, but for most brightening up nicely, allowing some sunshine to develop, though we can't rule out some showers just skipping through across Scotland, and some quite blustery northerly winds, so around any North Sea coasts it's going to be feeling much chillier here, but temperatures overall more towards average for the time of year, highs reaching around 10 to 11 degrees across the south. Now into the evening, clear skies once again and lighter winds means it is going to be turning chilly as we head through into Sunday. Likely we'll see frost for many areas, and this theme will continue into next week. Feeling colder, but there's likely to be more sunshine for many areas. That's it from me. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's just 2 weeks left to see how you could win your Christmas this year paid for by us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Feet earlier this year as part of the first group to trek the same route as Lawrence of Arabia.
A former Special Forces officer, Howard Leedham, followed in Lawrence's footsteps across Saudi Arabia and Jordan in a 25-day journey. And I'm very happy to say he joins us now. Howard, thank you very much for coming to see us.
Thank you for having me on. Now,
talk us about what you're putting on, having completed that remarkable trek.
Well, we did the trek in January and February, and I was odd enough to lead a team of Special Forces Club members to do the entire route that Lawrence did in 1917. 685 miles, 1,100 kilometres, took us 25 days. We started off with 5 riders, 4 riders made it. And the last 9 days we spent in Jordan. And one of the things that in Saudi, we would basically follow Lawrence's route from water to water and go to the same wells that he had gone, because that's what they had to do, as they worked their way around the Nefed desert. And then, obviously, when they came in towards Aqaba, because the guns in Aqaba all faced towards the sea,
yeah.
so they had to cross the uncrossable desert to get into the back of Aqaba. And when you come into Jordan, what strikes you is, because of the topography and because of the way that the history is so well recorded in that area, is that you can basically follow almost a precise route that he followed, and basically sleep in the same places that he slept. So you can really feel what they were doing and how they tactically moved down in order to take the port of Aqaba.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon. It's 1 o'clock on Saturday, the 15th of November, and this is The Weekend on GB News. An amazing show for you. Now, in a world exclusive, GB News sits down with the President of the United States, Donald Trump, as he takes aim at, the BBC. Have a listen.
This was a great term, except it's not strong enough. I'd like it to be stronger. The word fake is one thing, but this is beyond fake. This is corrupt.
Indeed, and he addresses his plan to sue the broadcaster for $1 billion.
Looking to get into lawsuits, but I think I have an obligation to do it. This was so egregious. If you don't do it, you don't stop it from happening again. And I wonder if they've done it. We'll find this out. The nice part about litigation is we'll find out how many times have they done it to other people.
And in other stories, we are covering the controversial 2-child benefit cap appears set to be axed, with both Prime Minister Keir Starmer and Chancellor Rachel Reeves indicating, an announcement in the budget. But is it the right move? And major incidents have been declared across the country as Storm Claudia sweeps through Britain. And this one is interesting. Stay tuned to find out just how many cups of tea the average Brit will consume in their lifetime. And trust me, it is a staggering number. I'm Dawn Newsom, this is Weekend. Hello, thank you so much for your company today. I really, really appreciate it, as I do every Saturday, because this show is all about you. But it's a special show today because we have if you've missed it, where were you? In the first hour, we played Bev's brilliant exclusive sit-down chat with Donald Trump in the White House in full. The first time it's been shown on the channel today. And I have to say, fair play to Bev to get someone as tricky, I think is a fair description, as Donald Trump, to sit down and chat so openly and warmly was a real achievement. That's a very difficult, people underestimate that kind of journalism, to get someone to open up and be that friendly and chat like that for nearly an hour. So fair play to Bev on that one. Let me know what you think. You've heard what Donald Trump has said to Bev. Now I want to hear what you've got to say to us about what you've heard. gbnews.com/YourSay. We are also talking about lots and lots of other stories as well, including tea. You don't want to miss that one. It's very interesting. But first, let's get the news headlines with Beth Nielsen.
Dawn, thank you. Good afternoon. Your top stories from the GB newsroom at 2 minutes past 1. The US President has told GB News he feels obligated to take legal action against the BBC for defamation. Donald Trump says he'll sue the broadcaster for at least $1 billion after it apologised but refused to compensate him over airing misleading clips in a Panorama programme. It spliced together parts of his speech on the day of the Capitol Hill riot, making it seem like he made a direct call for violence. They call it an error of judgment, but in an exclusive interview with The Late Show, Donald Trump branded the BBC corrupt.
Fake news was a great term, except it's not strong enough. I'd like it to be stronger. The word fake is one thing, but this is beyond fake. This is corrupt, what they did. I'm not looking to get into lawsuits, but I think I have an obligation to do it. This was so egregious. If you don't do it, you don't stop it from happening again. And I wonder if they've done it. We'll find this out. You know, the nice part about litigation is we'll find out how many times have they done it to other people.
In a major shake-up, people granted asylum in the UK will only be allowed to stay temporarily. The Home Secretary is set to announce reforms modelled on the Danish system next week, aiming to make the UK less attractive for illegal immigrants and make it easier to deport them. Currently, those granted refugee status have it for 5 years, and then they can apply for indefinite leave to remain. Under the new rules, they'll be returned to their home country as soon as it's considered safe. The Chancellor is set to announce so-called stealth taxes in the upcoming budget after she abandoned plans to raise income tax rates. Rachel Reeves is expected to extend the freeze on income tax thresholds until the end of the decade. That move could push more than 10 people into higher rate tax bands, including state pensioners. Reeves is also preparing a new levy on middle-class homeowners, introducing a £600 million surcharge on high-value properties. It's understood London and the South East will be hardest hit. The US president has withdrawn his support for a Republican congresswoman who's been calling for the release of all files about the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Donald Trump claims Marjorie Taylor Greene has changed politically and said he would support any challenger who wants to take her seat in Georgia. But Greene is accusing Trump of lying and targeting her to scare all other Republicans before next week's vote on the issue. And South Wales Fire and Rescue have declared a major incident in Monmouth after Storm Claudia caused severe and widespread flooding. Emergency services have been working through the night to evacuate people at risk and are urging others to avoid the area if possible. 4 severe flood warnings remain in place, meaning there's a significant risk to life. Meanwhile, thousands in Ireland are without power, and authorities there say the risk of flooding will remain even after weather alerts have lifted this afternoon. You're up to date. I'll have more for you in half an hour.
Thank you very much, Bethany, and she will be back later. She keeps me coming in the studio, to be honest with you. OK, now let's get straight into the stories. We've got an amazing second hour for you, and obviously we are going to be still talking about Bev Turner's amazing sit-down chat with Donald Trump, as well as other stuff, including cups of tea, because it's a Saturday afternoon. I like to keep it a little bit light as well. Now, in that world exclusive, GB News' Bev Turner sat down with Donald Trump in the White House. They spoke about the ongoing row with the BBC following the emergence of not one, but 2 doctored clips. Let's have a listen.
I have to admit their guilt. It's on tape, you know. I mean, there's nothing to admit. No, I think very shortly we have a statutory period. We've notified them by writing, and I think you have to wait a week. And so that time's coming up, and after that time comes up, we'll sue them. My lawyers say for $1 billion or more, and we'll see how it all works out. But I can't imagine they could do very well in that lawsuit. What they've done is incredible. But I will say, I think I have an obligation to bring a major lawsuit against the BBC, because what they did is impossible to believe. Now, fake news was a great term, except it's not strong enough. You know, I'd like it to be stronger. You know, the word fake is one thing, but this is beyond fake. This is corrupt, what they did.
Such a strong line. OK, joining me now is the Washington editor for The Times, Katie Balls. Katie, good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. Katie, just first of all, how difficult is it to get a full, almost an hour, sit-down chat with the President of the United States? It's not easy, is it?
No, I mean, I think we haven't seen too many when it comes to, obviously, particularly international publications. So you will often have, and I think it's fair to say that Donald Trump does a lot of media. You know, he's almost, from having come to the UK to the US, he's always talking to the press at these briefings. But those big sit-downs when it comes to speaking to international publications, broadcasters, they're quite, you know, few and far between.
No, I think I think, as we both know, Katie, he can be quite tricky when he's confronted with journalists and fellow politicians and pretty much everybody else. But, you know, he's got an important job. So I think Bev did a really good job to sit and get him comfortable. It was almost like a fireside chat, and we mustn't take that away from that style of interviewing.
Yeah, it was clearly a warm conversation, and you could tell that Bev had put the president at ease, and they had a natural rapport. And of course, as someone who's also in DC, I see Bev at these briefings. She had a question this week too on the issue of the BBC, and I think that it was perhaps a natural home for that conversation, given some of the things GB News has been talking about and what Donald Trump wanted to talk about when it came to the broadcaster and that big story, which has really made waves in here in DC as well as in the UK, because often we get these stories where there's a lot of UK interest in something happening with a UK-US angle, but it doesn't actually get that much cut through across America. Whereas here, the broadcasters, the American cable channels are all talking about the situation with the editing of the speech of Trump for Panorama, and now we learn Newsnight.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, once possibly an accident, but twice. I mean, come on. I mean, Katie, strong words on that subject as well. This is beyond fake. This is corrupt. I mean, Donald Trump doesn't beat about the bush when he's saying what he's thinking, is it?
No, and I think that in a way, the fact that he called for an apology, and the BBC did apologise, but I think most, including quite a lot of people at the BBC, suspected that he would still want to press on with litigation, and obviously he spoke about that in his interview with Bev, and I think that you can look at, he said to her that he doesn't like to have to do this, but he wanted to make a point, though of course there is a history here when it comes to Donald Trump. He has been making that point a fair bit, partly for the reasons he has outlined, where he has been having a few different legal cases against publications and broadcasters here in America. And of course, that is now expanding to the UK and the corporation.
And as you say, Katie, this is making news in America. This isn't just the UK. This story is important too. What are Americans making of it?
So I think there's a lot of interest in it, partly because the president has lent into it so much. So, of course, when the Telegraph, which was the first to have this dossier, it has more than just the Trump example in it. But that's the example being talked about here, because the White House has kept talking about it. And I think that there is just, there's already been a narrative coming from the White House when it comes to media publications. We know they're skeptical often of legacy media, fake news. Donald Trump again said in his GB News interview was almost too light a term for what has really been going on. But it does play into that sense by the administration that they feel as though they're recreating a media landscape, and some of the more establishment publications no longer fit into that, or they can't be trusted as neutral like they claim to be. That's something Donald Trump and his team have been pushing in their first term, when they weren't in the White House, and now again. So I think that's one of the reasons. And then, of course, you have Americans asking, tell us more about this public broadcaster, because obviously it's quite different here. We don't have, in America, the cable channels, the broadcasters will all have their political leanings, and they're quite upfront about it, as opposed to the situation in the UK, which is, of course, more regulated in that sense.
I have to say, Katie, I mean, it must be quite astonishing to Americans that we still have this. It must sound quite old-fashioned that we still have the BBC, where we all have to pay for it, whether we like it or not. And you are criminalised, indeed, if you don't pay for it and you're using those services. I mean, the Americans, as well as Donald Trump, must be going, what? Why would you do that?
Yeah, I was speaking to some friends at American newspapers here, and they, because obviously people are now writing about Trump in the BBC, and one of the things that a colleague who lived in Britain put in one of the pieces was about the number of convictions for women, particularly who don't have, who haven't paid their license fee, and you had lots of shocked Americans that this is something, where there is the force of law. So I think you're completely right that some eyebrows, some perplexity, I think, about how different it is. Now, of course, you will have lots of Brits here too, and some Americans who actually really do like the BBC and enjoy having it on. So there is a divide. I would say it tends to be the Democrats here who speak very positively of the BBC, and then it's the Republicans, particularly after this incident, but even prior, who are a bit more sceptical.
Yeah, and Katie, just quickly, one final question: how do you think Donald Trump How do you think Donald Trump thought that interview went? Will he be pleased with that?
I think so. He seemed pretty happy by the end of it, and particularly when Bev asked the question about, is president like being, being a father? And he said, I don't think he seemed shocked that he'd been asked a question he hadn't been asked before, which, given to the point earlier, domestically, he is always taking questions in a way that is very different, I think, to, you know, the UK Prime Minister in terms of the level of access, is quite a feat.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Katie. That is Washington editor for The Times, Katie Balzer. Thank you very much, Katie, for joining us. Now, joining me in the studio, people in the studio, I get excited by this, is political commentator Piers Pottinger and former editor of Labour List, Peter Edwards. Thank you so much for joining me, gentlemen. Now, obviously, there is only one subject in town, and I'm going to keep it mainly, I think one of the strongest lines to come out of it is Trump on the BBC. Beyond fake, this is corrupt. I mean, Peter, they are strong words, but he's got a point.
No, he hasn't. I think it's massively overblown, over the top, and I think it's a nonsense to call the BBC corrupt. I would defend the BBC. I think they're a force for good. They do make mistakes, and the criticism of the BBC is, one, the salaries are far too high. Lots of people paid more than 100k. And two, when stuff goes wrong, as it does at every broadcaster, they can be very slow to correct this, too many levels of management, and their complaints handling gets bogged down in bureaucracy. So I think Trump is totally wrong to call them corrupt, but BBC have made a mistake and have now recognised it, and they have to face up to reality like the rest of us.
OK, Piers, it was a mistake and these things happen. It happened twice. How much of a mistake is this?
I think it's much more than a mistake. It's a distortion of the facts and the truth, which is much more sinister. A mistake is you don't splice an interview the wrong way and like that as a simple mistake. It was deliberate, there's no question, and it was on Newsnight as well as Panorama. I wouldn't use the word corrupt, though. I agree that I don't think the BBC is corrupt. I think it lives in its own universe, and that is its problem. And it's also a victim of its own structure, because the licence fee is really not helping. I mean, at the moment, even if you don't watch the BBC, but you watch GB News, you're still paying the licence fee to watch GB News. And the BBC's revenues since 1990 have gone from 3 billion to 5 billion. In 1990, there's no Netflix. Now Netflix's revenues are 30 billion, for example. Sky's revenues have quintupled over that period, more than that. And the BBC is hamstrung by its structure. And I think what really needs to happen is when the charter renewal is coming up, and
2027, isn't it?
They should scrap the licence fee. They won't be able to do that overnight, but they could do it progressively. They need to allow advertising in certain ways. They should monetize iPlayer, the streaming service, which is extremely good. And what they also need is a clean sweep at the top of senior management to get some fresh thinking in from outside, not just people who are in this urban liberal bubble, a metropolitan universe of their own making, which is, I wouldn't say institutionally biased, but also they, in their defence, now talking about the BBC's enemies. Well, again, the BBC, as a public service broadcaster, should not have enemies.
Yeah, absolutely.
They've created the enemies by their very poor reaction, not only to Trump, but their shocking coverage of the Gaza war.
Well, let's put that point back to Peter. I mean, Peter, the BBC have implied this is a right-wing plot. Do you think there's something in that?
I wouldn't call it a plot because I'm wary of hyperbole, but clearly, and I don't know all Piers' views, but clearly in British society there's a widening consensus on the right, not just that the BBC is too big and not a force for good, as I believe, but there's a systematic attempt to undermine it. And I think the BBC is too big, and I note they've reined back, for example, some of their website coverage, but there is a systematic attempt to undermine the BBC, and I'm particularly concerned about the idea of people saying the licence fee is a tax on watching TV. If one is anti the BBC, then it's easier than any point in the last 100 years to get your news and your broadcast media online without the BBC. One doesn't have to pay the licence fee. It is optional. You can watch hundreds of other channels, including this one, online.
When you say there is an attempt to undermine the BBC, whose attempt to undermine it is it? Who's behind it?
I think there are, parts of the Conservative Party. parts of reform. And I think clearly, although I read the Times very regularly...
Why would they do that?
Well, I think it's a mixture. I think for commercial reasons, the Times has generally taken quite a sceptical tone about BBC, because I believe Rupert Murdoch sees the downsides to a large state broadcaster. Then you've got other parts of the media and politics, like Reform or the Daily Telegraph. And I think it's really born out of ideology. They just think the BBC... is not a force for good, as I would, and they feel that it's too London-centric. And I'm not sure that's fair, because, you know, if you let me go on, I started my newspaper career in Carlisle, which is about as far away from London as you can be. I met many good BBC reporters there, and I met many good BBC reporters in West Yorkshire. You know, at times it's a bit London-centric, but it does a lot of regional news in a very good way, at a time that the regional printed press is collapsing.
So do you think Trump is out of order in what he's saying by saying it's corrupt, it's fake news?
He shouldn't say it's corrupt, but look, I'm wary of taking artificial offence just because someone has a different view to me. I don't agree with Trump very much. He's wrong to call it corrupt. He's right to pursue an argument against the BBC because their mistakes in 2 programmes were particularly serious.
You still think it's a mistake?
Yeah, but I don't...
You don't think that was done on purpose?
No, I'm sure the people...
How does that happen by mistake, Peter?
Well, I think every media outlet, print or broadcast, makes errors, and sometimes they're to the detriment of the people they're writing about, you know, and that's why they end up in the High Court.
Sorry to interrupt. If I'd have made a mistake like that working as a newspaper journalist, I'd have been sacked.
I don't even sack because you've got an august career behind you and you've got huge contacts and skills, but it would have been a very serious matter for the paper you're running, and I think it's become a very serious matter for the BBC, and that's what you see. Yes, again, there was this delay and it felt a bit sclerotic in the BBC coming out to defend itself, but now Samir Shah, the new chair, is on TV giving fairly fulsome apologies. I don't think the BBC should pay a penny to Donald Trump, and I suspect, it is a fantastic story that the US president wants to sue the British national broadcaster, but I'm pretty sure it won't happen.
He's got previous for suing broadcasting organisations.
Well,
and settling, though, and settling.
And settling, but 16 million he got from, was it CBS or CBS?
So,
yeah, I mean, also there's a slight legal question over quite how he's going to sue the BBC, in which territory. But nevertheless, it'll cost the BBC a lot in terms of legal fees and working on this. Although I hope they've got indemnity insurance, and the insurance company, rather than the licence fee payer, should be footing the bill. If they're properly run, they will have that kind of professional insurance.
The problem with that, I'm pretty sure that they have got some indemnity insurance. But who pays for that? The licence fee payer pays for that.
Well, we pay the premium, but I mean, the problem is the BBC hasn't got much money. As I've told you, their revenues are not growing, their costs are growing. They've got a mostly very admirable website, which is completely not monetised. They don't make a penny. It's just a massive cost. And all the regional correspondents, they have more correspondents around the world than any other broadcaster, which we should be proud of and admire, and I'm all for that, but it's got to be paid for. And they're never going to be able to pay for it simply through the licence fee. If they have any possible ways of competing, they can't do productions like Netflix because they haven't got any budgets for the drama. They'd hardly cover any sport. The major spectator sports in this country are not shown live on BBC.
No, this is true. Gentlemen, we have unfortunately run out of time, but as always, a brilliant points made by both of you, Piers Pottinger and Peter Edwards. Thank you both very much for coming in today. Now, in a letter sent to the President on Thursday, the BBC said, while the BBC sincerely regrets the manner in which the video clip was edited, we strongly disagree there is a basis for a defamation claim. OK, now, and handbrake turned on because we have got some good news. It's the Great British Giveaway, and there's just 2 weeks left to grab your chance to enjoy Christmas on us this year. That's £40,000 in tax-free cash. That's a lot, isn't it? Shopping vouchers and a GBNews festive goodie bag. Make sure you don't miss out. Here's all the details you need.
There's just 2 weeks left to see how you could win your Christmas this year paid for by us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash so you can have a brilliant new year. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, the decorations, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. And the best news? You'll get it all in time for the big day. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 8th of December. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck indeed. OK, I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News. There's loads more coming up on today's show. Major incidents have been declared across the country as Storm Claudia sweeps through Britain. All of that and much more to come. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. I'll see you very soon.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to the weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. Thank you so much for your company this Saturday afternoon. Now, to the latest on the damage caused by Storm Claudia. And a major incident has been declared in South Wales after the storm caused severe and widespread flooding. Some of the pictures online are frankly horrific. Emergency services and local teams have been carrying out rescues and evacuations since the incident was declared in Monmouth at 1:30 this morning. You can see on your screens there. And if you're listening on the radio, it's at literally flooded streets. It looks awful, those poor people. And there's more bad news after a yellow alert for cold weather for a large part of England from Monday has been issued. Storm Claudia has moved over to the island of Ireland. And you know what I'm going to say next, don't you? Because I always do this to poor Doogie. Whenever there's bad weather in Ireland, I just persuade Doogie well, tell him basically, Doogie, just go and stand right in the middle of a storm. So here now is the wonderful Doogie Beattie, who is in Newcastle, in County Down, in the middle of a storm. Doogie!
Good afternoon, Dawn. Yes, we're right at the foot of the Mourne Mountains. You can just see the mountains of Mourne where they come down to the sea behind me. And this morning it was very stormy here. There was basically white horses right across the waves coming in. Of course, we're about level with Blackpool here, so that heavy rain has went across the Irish Sea into the Republic of Ireland, just down below Dublin, and that is where most of those alerts are. There are 70 weather warnings out there, flood warnings out there at the moment, and 180 storm incidents actually occurring as we go through. But this is the first autumnal storm really to hit Great Britain, UK, British Isles, whatever you want to call it. And there's not that much wind behind it. It has been torrential rain for the past 24 hours. And what that has caused is flooding in amongst cities and towns, as you've said, especially the south-southeast of Wales, Monmouth, in the Bristol Channel. Even Exeter has had a touch of this. Last night I was looking at some of the heavy rain coming down there, down into Plymouth, and it is causing mayhem. And a lot of that is caused because this is the first storm of the year, Dawn. Loads of those trees have shed their leaves, they've gone into the drains, they've clogged them up, and the councils will now be going basically flat out to try and clear those drains and clear those leaves, etc. from it. But for the people that have been flooded out, especially in the south of Wales, this will take months to get back to normal. Their houses will be very badly damaged, cars damaged, massive insurance bills, and then again at the other end of that, of course, premiums. But we do have the added problems with that, of course, when a town floods, that the sewers blow open and sewage floods the streets and right through people's houses. So there is severe damage done in Wales at this minute in time, and they're expecting extremely cold weather to start coming in at the end of this week coming in, and that will cause more and more problems with people who are already trying to sort out flood damage. And of course it also causes housing problems because you have to replace those people in houses somewhere else. So local councils now will be really up against it and trying to push for the clearance of the floods that are there and rehouse people.
We talk about it pretty much every year, and I go and make you stand somewhere dangerous, to be honest with you. But I mean, it's the effect. I mean, my house was unluckily flooded once, and it is just horrific. I mean, the mopping up and the trouble with insurance, and we must never underestimate how much it puts people through, and we never seem to be quite prepared enough for it.
Well, we're not, and there's a lot of this can be blamed on net zero as well. Most of the net zero stuff has told the farmers that you must keep phosphates in the land. So therefore, they're told not to clean out their ditches and rivers around the fields in order to keep up the phosphate in the ground, which is a good way of doing it. But the problem with that is, of course, any of those fields that are close to a river or a lake are, of course, the floodplains for that river. And if they're already flooded, trying to keep the phosphate in the land, there's nowhere for that stream or river to go to except expand somewhere downstream. And that's what we've been seeing over these last few years right across the British Isles, and that has caused insurance premiums to go up. And it will take months and months drying a house out. Many houses will not be able to be reinsured, and most of them will have to have the plaster stripped off the inside of them, and there are major renovations to do after your property has been flooded.
Awful stuff. Doogie, thank you very much. That's a GB News Northern Ireland reporter, the wonderful Doogie Beattie, who's in the rain. Go and have a nice hot cup of tea, love. Thanks very much, Doogie. OK, I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News, and there's lots more coming up on today's show, including tea, by the way, including tea. Yeah, stay tuned to find out just how many cups of the stuff, on average, Brits will consume in their lifetime. And trust me, it is a staggering number. But first, let's get the news headlines.
Dawn, thank you. Good afternoon. The headlines from the GB Newsroom. The US President has told GB News he feels obligated to sue the broadcaster for at least $1 billion. That's despite the BBC apologising for airing misleading clips in a Panorama programme. People granted asylum in the UK will only be allowed to stay temporarily under new government plans. They'll be returned to their home country as soon as it's considered safe. The Chancellor is set to announce so-called stealth taxes in the upcoming budget after she abandoned plans to raise income tax rates. In South Wales, Fire and Rescue have declared a major incident in Monmouthshire after Storm Claudia caused severe flooding and thousands in Ireland are without power. You're up to date. More for you at 2 o'clock.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Thank you very much, Bethany. Now, remember, let me know your thoughts about all the stories we're discussing today, and in particular, interested to hear your thoughts on Bev Turner's exclusive interview with Donald Trump. Linda's just messaged in, Bev played a blinder. She got Trump to show his human side. This is why people like him, because he has one. So lots of people are getting in touch about that one, and and lots of comments about poor Doogie and how I make him stand in storms as well. Keep them coming in. gbnews.com/you'll say. I'll read as many out as I possibly can. There's loads more coming up on today's show as well, not just Trump. The controversial two-child benefit cap appears to be set to be axed, with both Prime Minister Keir Starmer and Chancellor Rachel Reeves indicating an announcement in the budget. But is that the right move? All of that and much more to come. I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. Don't go too far. I'll see you very, very soon.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. After all the heavy rain yesterday, Storm Claudia will weaken, but leaving behind plenty of cloud and also some fog across the south. But in Scotland, plenty of sunny spells to come. Now here's that area of low pressure just off the Bay of Biscay, and here's the frontal system it's leaving behind. This will bring plenty of rain and drizzle through the course of the day, and to the south of this, plenty of low clouds. Some foggy conditions may remain across this south, but where we do see the fog ease away, plenty of cloudy skies will remain. Further north, though, across Scotland, a much brighter day. Plenty of sunny spells here and quite blustery across much of the country, but even these winds will ease away by the afternoon. Plenty of milder air still remains across the south, highs of 14 to 15 degrees Celsius here. Now into the evening, still plenty of cloud will remain, and it will still produce some rain and drizzle, particularly across the Welsh Hills, across parts of the Pennines. Also parts of Northern Ireland continue to see some spells of rain and drizzle. Plenty of clear skies across Scotland, but that does mean as soon as the sun goes down, it will feel chilly once again, and it's likely we'll see quite a widespread frost across Scotland through the course of the night. Skies will eventually start to clear across Northern Ireland, northern areas of England, so it's starting to turn much chillier here, but to the south of this, still plenty of cloud remains, still producing some light outbreaks of rain and drizzle, mainly around hilly areas. But with the cloud, that does mean temperatures will hold up across the south, but many areas across Scotland, Northern Ireland, parts of northern England may just about drop below freezing, with quite a widespread frost across Scotland. Now for Sunday, the second half of the weekend, it will be brightening up for many of us. The remnants of cloud will eventually push south, so remaining quite cloudy across many southern counties, but elsewhere brightening up nicely, plenty of sunny spells, but some quite blustery winds, particularly around North Sea coasts. There might be some showers around these areas too. For all temperatures, around about average for the time of year, highs reaching 11 degrees.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. Right now, a slight change of pace there. I don't know if you've seen a copy of your Daily Mail today. It's also online, but there's an astonishing story in there about a family of 7 who get a £1,900 a month in welfare and could get a £10,000 a year more if the 2-child cap benefit is lifted, which is what may be coming up in the budget. Who knows what's coming up in the budget? I've got a folder of stuff that might be coming up in the budget and make up as go along. But, you know, mum and dad, neither of them work, got 5 little ones, and they will be getting £10,000 a year more if the child benefit cap is lifted. Is this the right thing to do? It's been a hot debate for a while, hasn't it? So let's have another hot debate, shall we? I'm joined now by author and political commentator Emma Wolf and a lifestyle commentator Steve Miller. Good to see you both. Thank you very much for joining me.
Hello.
Now, I'm not having a go at this one particular family, but it's a story that's going to annoy people. They could get £10,000 a year more if this 2-child cap is lifted, which we expect will happen, and they're not alone. There are about 200,000 families in the UK that this will apply to. Let's come to you first, Emma, on this one. Are you in favour of it being lifted, or do you think it should be kept in place? What are your views?
Honestly, Dawn, I don't understand the rage about mothers, about big families, about irresponsible breeding. You know, other countries actually celebrate parents. They celebrate mothers. They give them medals. They make they exempt them from income tax. We all pay for services that we don't use, okay? That we don't need. I don't drive. I don't create potholes. I pay for all the road fund tax, all of that. I don't fly particularly. Other people take 10 or 20 flights a year. I'm not a smoker. I'm not obese. We all pay for their healthcare on the NHS. We need children. What is wrong with paying for large families? What is wrong with paying for children, for parents who are bringing up the next generation? What is wrong with that?
Okay.
Where do we expect future generations to come
about
from?
lifestyle. What's wrong with that? No, I disagree with this.
Right, OK, yeah, right, you two, one at a time, right? Emma, you've had your say. Steve, what is wrong? We need more babies being born.
This facilitates what I will call a layabout lifestyle. It is naive to think that when you do this, it's going to encourage responsible people to have more children that will go to work and do a good day's graft. No, that won't happen. This is negligent. This will encourage people to be irresponsible and, frankly, as I've said, create a layabout lifestyle. We have people in this country that need to think before they breed, frankly. And this is an example of a family, you know, I'm sure they're lovely people, but they're going to be how much better off? 10 grand? Better off a year, potentially?
Yes.
You tell the taxpayer that at the moment. The taxpayer is already screwed. This money has to come from somewhere, and it should not be from the taxpayer. The government are doing this for votes. We know why they are doing it.
OK, Emma?
There is nothing irresponsible about having children. It is far, far easier. And I speak as someone who knows it is far easier to go to work and fanny about at the office all day talking to other adults than it is to bring up children.
I don't want to pay any more money for other people's children.
I would prefer my taxes to go on larger British families being brought up, as I say, the future generations, the people who will look after our elderly, the young people that will work in the NHS, whatever. I prefer
I
to
think
pay
you're being very naive. You're being very naive, Emma.
For foreign criminals, for money being sent overseas.
Emma,
there is
Emma,
plenty
can I come in?
of wasted money.
All right, let Steve have a point here.
Steve, let's have a bit of a reality check here, listeners and viewers. The family that Dawn is referring to that may be getting £10,000 a year more of your money, taxpayers, they already have bicycles, they've already got coats and trainers, their rent is already covered for a 4-bedroom house, they've got a 60-inch television, their gas and electric's paid, the mum said the kids are warm and they're fed. So why the hell should the taxpayer be paying £10,000 more, potentially, for this family that, frankly, one of them needs to get off their backside and provide for their children and stop expecting the hard-working taxpayer to do it for them?
Emma, this policy, if we do abolish the cap, the full cost will be an annual $3.5 billion to the taxpayer. Many people, and certainly many older people watching and listening today, are already struggling. We know pensioners are going to be targeted, certainly if they happen to have a house that's worth over a certain amount of money. Can we even afford this policy?
Well, look, someone has to look after children. We can shuffle it around. You can be a woman who pays, like me, pays other women to look after your child, or you go and earn money to pay someone else to look after your child. It's all completely schizophrenic. Do we care about children being brought up well? Do we care about future generations? Simple as that. Personally, as I was trying to say, when the lovely Steve was also talking about layabout lifestyles, I genuinely would prefer my taxes to go on British large families. Large families are lovely. They're good for children. They're good for everybody's mental health. They're good for the population. That's what we need. I prefer that than my money being sent abroad on endless foreign conflicts.
Steve?
I think Emma's got a very fair point there. And it may be that we could create agreement if we said maybe this could apply to parents that are working rather than sponging off the state.
I mean, both of these parents have worked in the past, and there is mental health issues with the father. So, I mean, they are on benefits, and not because they are sponging. I'm not implying they're layabouts in any way, shape, or form, but that this cap will make a big difference to their lifestyle, and a big difference to many people who are going to be paying a lot more tax, Emma. And I get what you're saying about we all have to pay for things we don't use, but at the moment, in the cost of living crisis, this just doesn't feel fair.
No, and it doesn't, and I get that, and I don't want pensioners freezing. I've argued passionately against the cuts that seem to always go be against the British people. I argue passionately that there's so much money for things that really aren't essential and aren't needed. But there is also a more subtle point, which is bringing up children is an end in itself. We do need to create decent future generations, future citizens. It's not just someone else's kids. They will become young people. They will become, hopefully, workers. So there is that as well. It is a tough job. And I don't think also people don't just have more kids to get more money. It doesn't work like that. It's a big decision to have one more child, two more children. I mean, I was from a family of 7, i.e. 5 children. And, there are ways of doing that. But my parents were working. It's a tough job. And no, I don't want British people suffering either.
Steve, we do need more children. We have an ageing population. We need more youngsters to carry on paying into the system so we can actually get a pension. So we do need more babies being born.
No, I have no issue for that, but I want responsible parenting. What I don't want is the taxpayer having to pay out for people to actually enjoy a reasonable life of luxury, may I say, because it's naive to think that a lot of we hear about modern day poverty. What is modern day poverty these days? It's where you actually still have a laptop in the house, you still got your smartphone, you still got your games to play on. That's the reality. Poverty used to be where you got no hot water. Poverty used to be where you got no heating. Poverty used to be where there's fleas and mice in the house. Poverty nowadays is, oh, well, the little one can't have a smartphone, so I'm in poverty. It's ridiculous. The taxpayer is being penalised enough. They cannot afford it.
OK, thank you both so much. Very strong points there. That's Emma Wharf and Steve Miller. Thank you very much for your comments on that one. Let me know what you're thinking about that as well. gbnews.com/your say. I'm Dawn Neeson, and this is GB News. There's loads more coming up on today's show. Stay tuned to find out just how many cups of tea the average Brit will consume in their lifetime, and how much it costs you also. Trust me, the number is staggering. But if you are in search of some holiday sun where they don't serve tea like we do they abroad? Here is a forecast for those top European holiday destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries, all sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Storm Claudia is not just affecting the UK, it will continue to bring heavy rain to parts of Portugal and western Spain. But meanwhile, in the Mediterranean, it's looking dry and sunny throughout the weekend. Highs around 17 to 19 degrees. Also fairly dry across parts of Italy as well. But it's further west into Portugal where the wet weather will continue into this weekend. And that wet weather is set to spread further east into the Mediterranean, bringing rain here later next week. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Breast cancer is the most common cancer in the UK, and over a lifetime, 1 in 8 women will develop breast cancer. It's mostly affecting women over 50. As you mentioned before, it does affect a small proportion of men, less than 1%, but still there is a potential risk. The good news is, if caught early, survival is excellent due to improved treatments and new drugs. So 99% of women and men survive for more than 5 years if caught early. And overall, the breast cancer survival rate is about 85%, which is fantastic. It's important to know that you have to check. Women have to learn to check their breasts. So if you notice anything different, dimpling, change in shape, a lump, go and get it checked out. Even though survival rates are much improved, we do have less survival here compared to other countries. So, for example, in America, 90% of women will survive over 10 years if they're with breast cancer. So it is important to get checked out just as soon as you notice any changes whatsoever.
Why is there that difference, Lucy, between, say, us and America, for example?
Well, the UK lags behind generally in cancer survival, 10 to 25 years, they estimate, over a range of cancers. That includes prostate, ovarian, lung, breast and bowel cancer. And there could be a number of reasons, but I think part of the problem, the NHS, is great when you get to the front of the queue, isn't it? But it's actually getting there.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here to GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to The Weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. Now, you might want to put your feet up and have a cup of tea for this section, because that's what we're talking about. We are, of course, known as a nation of tea drinkers, and it's now clear just how much we love a cuppa. A new study has revealed that the average Brit will drink more than 62,000 cups of tea in their lifetime, and that comes out at a cost of more than £6,600 over 81 years. Joining me now in the studio is etiquette expert, and she's got the perfect name for this, the wonderful Liz Brewer, who looks fantastic as well. You always look fantastic, but you are looking very sparkly today. Liz, tea. I drink a fair bit of tea, not as much as some people. I was surprised at how much we actually drink. But the art of tea drinking has changed so much, even in my lifetime.
Well, it has. And, you know, the thing is about tea, tea is something which is a social ritual. But, I mean, it started off, you know, when Catherine Braganza brought it over, and she loved tea, and we were importing tea from India, etc. Remember the Boston Tea Party and all that?
Yes.
All that jazz. But the thing about tea is, it's one of those things, as I said, we don't have coffee etiquette.
No.
But we do have tea. And it's extraordinary, the kind of things that are associated with tea. And it became with, I think it was the Duchess, I wrote it down, it was actually the Duchess of Bedford in 1840s. And she brought tea to the palace. And she would have her ladies there, and they'd have tea. And it was because she used to get a bit hungry between lunch and dinner. And they'd have the cakes and the sandwiches. But it has become something that people get very worried about. You know, should I have my pinky? No, you shouldn't. Should you put the milk in first or the tea? No, you put the milk in afterwards, so you see the level of colour, etc. And should you hold it here? No, you shouldn't. You should hold it.
Oh, right. I think I've just broken every single rule of tea drinking.
Put it back in the saucer. The whole subject about tea is fascinating. And when, in the 1800s, and we also became a bit, the workers were drinking an awful lot of beer, I gather. And so at that time, when tea had been introduced, they gave them tea. And everybody actually then drank tea in what they called the working class. And because in those days, the working class were those people that really did work and,
yes,
you know, the rather guttural jobs. So it is fascinating. And I am curious because when you showed me those statistics, which are... but when you think your entire lifetime, you could spend
Liz,
6,000...
I think we've run out of time, unfortunately. I could talk to you forever. Thank you very much, Liz Brewer, and thank you very much. Have a nice cup of tea, because here's the weather, and I'll see you after that.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Over the weekend, cloudy skies will soon clear to sunshine. Feeling cold though, particularly in some brisk northerly winds. Back to this evening though, and this area of low pressure just off the Bay of Biscay will still continue to bring us some cloud and also some drizzly conditions, particularly across Northern Ireland, northern areas of England to start. But plenty of cloud will clear to the south, allowing some clearer skies across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England. So feeling chillier here, and likely we'll see a widespread frost across Scotland. But with cloudier skies to the south, that will keep temperatures up, so not turning quite as chilly here. Lows reaching around 9 to 10 degrees across the far south, but likely dipping below freezing across many areas of the north. Then to start the day on Sunday, there will be plenty of bright skies across Scotland. That's away from the far north though, more cloud pushing in here and also some showers, but it's certainly going to be a chilly start with some frost in places. Quite a chilly start across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, and similar here too. Plenty of bright skies to start the day. As we head further south though, more clouds, some grey skies, possibly some fog in places and also some drizzly conditions. But the good news is it is brightening up for many areas. Most of this cloud sinking towards the south, so remaining quite cloudy across many southern counties, but for most brightening up nicely, allowing some sunshine to develop, though we can't rule out some showers just skipping through across Scotland, and some quite blustery northerly winds, so around any North Sea coasts it's going to be feeling much chillier here, but temperatures overall more towards average for the time of year, highs reaching around 10 to 11 degrees across the south. Now into the evening, clear skies once again and lighter winds means it is going to be turning chilly as we head through into Sunday. Likely we'll see frost for many areas, and this theme will continue into next week. Feeling colder, but there's likely to be more sunshine for many areas. That's it from me. Bye-bye.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's just 2 weeks left to see how you could win your Christmas this year paid for by us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate rate message or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock, only on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, it's 2 o'clock on Saturday the 15th of November, and this is the weekend on GB News. Now, your main story, a brilliant story. In a world exclusive, GB News sits down with the President of the United States, Donald Trump, as he takes aim at the BBC.
This was a great term, except it's not strong enough. You know, I'd like it to be stronger. You know, the word fake is one thing, but this is beyond fake. This is corrupt.
And he talked about his plan to sue the broadcaster for $1 billion.
Looking to get into lawsuits, but I think I have an obligation to do it. This was so egregious. If you don't do it, you don't stop it from happening again. And I wonder if they've done it. We'll find this out. You know, the nice part about litigation is we'll find out how many times have they done it to other people.
He also let rip about immigration in the UK and Europe.
It's going to destroy you. If you get people from the wrong people, in our case, we had people coming in from jails, from mental institutions, from the drug dealers, and some of the worst scum.
Doesn't hold back, does he? In other news, Rachel Reeves will raise $7.5 billion from millions of workers by freezing tax thresholds at the budget. After her decision to scrap controversial plans to raise income tax led to a sell-off in the bond market. And the Mayor of London hits back at politicians spreading misinformation about safety in the capital, as new data indicates the number of violent crimes has fallen, but the City Hall Conservatives beg to differ.
And say crime is down. Since you became mayor in 2016, knife crime has gone up by 27%. Violence against a person has increased by 26%. Robbery has increased by 57%. Theft has increased by 37%. Shoplifting has increased by 109%.
Much more of that coming up. Meanwhile, Conor Benn is seeking revenge and looking to bounce back from his first defeat when he faces a bitter rival, Chris Eubank Jr., in tonight's big rematch. I'm Dawn Neeson with GB News. So thank you so much for your company this afternoon. I know, I always say it's the weekend, it's really busy, and lots of you are rushing about doing all the stuff we don't have time during the week. So thank you so much for your company, because my favourite bit of the show is talking to you, especially on a great show like we've had today. We've had that amazing sit-down interview with Donald Trump. Bev Teller's doing an amazing job in the White House there. And I think, you know, one of the arts of journalism is getting, if you're interviewing someone, them to be relaxed, to talk like it's a fireside chat with a friend. And I think Bev absolutely nailed that. And that is really, really difficult thing to do. So we will be talking more about that interview, as well as lots of other stuff, including Sadiq Khan and crime in the capital city, and indeed crime around the UK, which is another thing Donald Trump refers to as well. It's out of control, according to Donald Trump. Let me know what you think at gbnews.com/yoursay and join in our conversation. But before we get stuck into all of the stories, let's get the latest news headlines with the wonderful Bethany Elsing.
Dawn, thank you. Good afternoon. Your top stories from the GB newsroom at 2 The US president has told GB News he feels obligated to take legal action against the BBC for defamation. Donald Trump says he'll sue the broadcaster for between $1 and $5 billion after it apologised but refused to compensate him over airing misleading clips in a panorama programme. It spliced together parts of his speech on the day of the Capitol Hill riot, making it seem like he made a direct call for violence. They call it an error of judgment, but in an exclusive interview with The Late Show, Donald Trump branded the BBC corrupt.
Fake news was a great term, except it's not strong enough. You know, I'd like it to be stronger. You know, the word fake is one thing, but this is beyond fake. This is corrupt, what they did. I'm not looking to get into lawsuits, but I think I have an obligation to do it. This was so egregious. If you don't do it, you don't stop it from happening again. And I wonder if they've done it. We'll find this out. You know, the nice part about litigation is we'll find out how many times have they done it to other people.
In a major shake-up, people granted asylum in the UK will only be allowed to stay temporarily. The Home Secretary is set to announce reforms modelled on the Danish system next week, aiming to make the UK less attractive for illegal immigrants and make it easier to deport them. Currently, those granted refugee status have it for 5 years and can then apply for indefinite leave to remain. Under the new rules, they'll be returned to their home country as soon as it's considered safe. The Chancellor is set to announce so-called stealth taxes in the upcoming budget after she abandoned plans to raise income tax rates. Rachel Reeves is expected to extend the freeze on income tax thresholds until the end of the decade. That move could push more than 10 million people into higher rate tax bands, including state pensioners. Reeves is also preparing a new levy on middle-class homeowners, including a £600 million surcharge on high-value properties. It's understood London and the South East will be hardest hit. The US president has withdrawn his support for a Republican congresswoman who's been calling for the release of all files about the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Donald Trump claims Marjorie Taylor Greene has changed politically and said he would support any challenger who wants to take her seat in Georgia. But Greene is accusing Trump of lying and targeting her to scare all other Republicans before next week's vote on the issue. South Wales Fire and Rescue have declared a major incident in Monmouth after Storm Claudia caused severe and widespread flooding. Emergency services have been working through the night to evacuate people at risk and are urging others to avoid the area if possible. 4 severe flood warnings remain in place, meaning there's a significant risk to life. Meanwhile, thousands in Ireland are without power. Authorities there say the risk of flooding will remain even after weather alerts have been lifted today. You're up to date. I'll have more for you at 12:30.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more or visit gbnews.com/truth.
Thank you very much, Bethany. Now, lots of you are getting in touch and asking where you can watch Bev Turner's interview with Donald Trump. It is on our website now. You can watch it in full, as well as some of the edited highlights as well. And I just want to read this message out from Jennifer. Bev did a brilliant job interviewing Trump. Thoroughly enjoyed watching it. Great viewing. So do keep them coming in. And you can be critical as well. I'm going to read as many out. I just go to read a critical one out and it disappears off the screen. And it's not on purpose, by the way, don't worry. But do get in touch, gbnews.com/your say. Now, in that world exclusive with Bev and the Trump and the President of the United States, they spoke about how the United States is handling illegal immigration and what lessons Europe could learn. Well worth a listen, so have a look.
I'm so saddened to see what happened in Europe with the immigration. I think above all else, the immigration, but the bad taxing policies. When you look at, Europe is not the same place.
No.
I can't say every place, but pretty much almost every place. There are a couple of places, and I won't even get into that because those are the people, the leaders that aren't liked by the other European leaders. Yeah. And I've told some of the leaders of Europe, you've got to stop. Your immigration is going to destroy you. If you get people from the wrong people, in our case, we had people coming in from jails, from mental institutions, from the drug dealers, and some of the worst scum. And we're getting them out, and we've got a lot of them out. If you look at some of our cities that we've, sent the military in to correct, Washington, D.C. was very unsafe, and now it's the safest place in the country. It took me 2 months to make it good, less actually, but 2 months to make it really good. Now everyone's having dinners there. We have these beautiful, nice military guys all over the place. And they look good. To me they look good because it means safety. But we took out 1,700 career criminals and criminals from other countries that came in like they come into your country. And Europe has to do something about it. Well, we are doing something. Even Chicago, we have a bad governor and a bad mayor, and we're fighting with them all the time. But crime is down now 40%. And we've just done a little splurge, and crime is down 40%. In Memphis, we're in Memphis right now, Memphis, Tennessee, very, very dangerous, bad place. We've almost got it fixed, and this is after a month, less than a month. What it shows is it can be done. And Washington, D.C. is such a great example because people were afraid to walk outside, and now they're walking down with their children in the middle of the street. You better do something about immigration because it's more important than inflation. Inflation you can solve. But when you have people coming into your country and they're bad people, the wrong people, it doesn't work, and it's not working. If you don't get them out, you're not going to have a country left.
When you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, like we all do, what do you worry about? What keeps you awake at night? I don't think you sleep for a start because I've seen your schedule and you don't really bother with sleep.
We have plenty of time to sleep later on.
Yeah.
Lots of time. We have infinity. But no, I think that, I had an expression when I first ran, Make America Great Again, right? Very simple expression. I think in political history it's the best ever used, maybe beyond the United States, I think about that. I just want to make America great again. It's like, I don't want to be politically correct. I don't want to be, I'm sort of conservative, I guess, but that's because policies tend to be like conservative. You want strong borders, you want good education, you want a powerful military, you want, different things. Yeah. But the expression really says it all, make America great again. You should have the same expression in your country, make the UK great again. You have so many terms. You have England, you have Britain, you have the UK, but whatever you want to use. You want to make it great again.
But we're not alone in Europe, that leaders of European countries, and particularly the UK, are incredibly squeamish about the suggestion that their people are more important than people coming from other countries. Why?
Well, you don't have that in Look, in the case of Hungary, you have a man named Viktor Orban, who the other leaders hate, but who does a fabulous job. You know how many people he's allowed into his country?
Go on.
0. And he's got no problems. He has taken some Ukrainians, from the war, but basically 0. The Ukrainians, they blend in. He's allowed nobody to come in. You had a couple of, Poland, I think, has done a very good job.
Similar.
Poland's been great, and the man who won the election, who's fantastic, was not expected to even come close. It was one of many people running. And through a friend of his and a friend of mine, a mutual friend, I endorsed him and he won the election.
Yeah.
So it was a pretty big upset. But he's fantastic. He's going to be a great president. But Poland doesn't take people in. There are some countries that just refuse to do it.
Yeah, we're not one of them.
No, you are not one of them.
It's a really, honestly, it's a really good, and I keep saying this. I mean, I've worked on newspapers literally all my life, and to get the trust of an interviewee is so, so important. I think that's the one thing Bev has done brilliantly in that interview. And also to get the interview in the first place. How many people get an hour, literally, and Trump asked for it to carry on, an hour, literally, sit-down chat with the President of the United States? I mean, can't take that away from Bev Turner there. Now, we're joined by Chairman of Republicans Overseas, Greg Swenson, and former Liberal Democrat MP Norman Baker to discuss, indeed, this world exclusive. Greg, I'm going to come to you first. Obviously, you're going to be full of praise for Bev's interview and, indeed, for Trump. How do you think Trump did in that interview?
I think he did very well. I think it's a good format for him, the one-on-one. You know, get away from kind of the chaos and the noise of press conferences and all the, you know, sort of comedy of it in many respects. And so I think he does well in that format. Great for Bev, great for GB News. That was a phenomenal interview and a great moment for you all.
OK, and Norman, let's come to you on this one. I mean, lots of comments there. Obviously, the main ones we're taking from it are the BBC and immigration. Immigration is more important than inflation. One of the things, Donald Trump there. What do you make of what you heard?
Well, first of all, Bev Turner's approach, I think, was similar to perhaps David Frost in the old days, which is to allow the interviewee to say what they want. And sometimes if you do that, then they say things they shouldn't do, or they're more frank than they would otherwise be. So it's an interesting and probably quite an effective interviewing style to apply. In terms of the content, I'm not sure I agree that immigration is more important than inflation. If inflation gets out of control, as it did say in 1920s in Germany, then the whole state collapses. So, I mean, the answer is both are important, and it's difficult to weigh one against the other. But the comments I want to pick up on particularly are to do with the BBC, because the BBC isn't fake news. The BBC isn't corrupt. It made a mistake, a clumsy mistake, in segueing two bits of Donald Trump's speech together. And they don't deserve to be kind of condemned into outer space as a consequence of that. All broadcasters make mistakes. And it's worth making the point, I think, to all viewers, particularly those in America, if any are listening, and Greg will know this, that in this country, we have Ofcom, we have a regulator which requires broadcasters, including the BBC and GB News, of course, to be fair and balanced. That's what these stations have to be. Otherwise, they get taken off air, as, for example, Russia Today was taken off air. That doesn't apply in the US. So television stations in the US, like Fox News, do not have to be balanced. They can be very partisan. And I think our country's richer from having a balanced media and from having the opportunity to criticise individual stations. But you know, the BBC, for all its faults, and I've been subject to an attack for the BBC, which I was not able to respond to, a quite disgraceful attack, actually, some time ago. I wasn't even given the right to reply. So I'm not going to be uncritical of the BBC. But what I would say is that we need the BBC in this country. We need, apart from anything else, we need to make sure we have British media. In the last 20 years, we've had a long exposure to American groups like Google and Facebook and everything else. It's important we have a British voice, and the BBC is a British voice.
OK, Greg, let's come back to you on this. I mean, it was a mistake, according to Norman there, a mistake made twice in a very similar way by BBC's flagship programmes Newsnight and Panorama. Do you think it was a mistake?
Yeah, I'd have to disagree with Norman. I think it's not just a one-off mistake, and it's something that's really permeated the entire network, or at least the news division. And so there's this general attitude, this general snobbery that you see, not just on the president. It's not just that one thing. And there was a great article in the Wall Street Journal this week written by one of the London folks from the Journal. But you know, in 2023, for example, when mass migration was the #1 issue with the public, the push notices that came out from the BBC in September of 23, there were 219 push notices on social media only 4 included mass migration. So the point is, they focus on the things that the dinner party circuit in Islington likes to focus on, not, what many people like to focus on. And then in terms of the comparison to the US, we also have balanced media, but we do it through the free market. We do it through the marketplace with price signals and competition, not with regulation. As we typically don't like over-regulation. We want to let the free market work. So look, we love the BBC. I think it's got a great global brand. I'm so glad that Bev mentioned that on her show last night, that she also loves the BBC. We all want the BBC to survive and to be better. But I don't think they're impartial. That would be humorous. I've been on the BBC so many times. And by the way, I love being on the BBC almost as much as I love being on GB News. But I do think they need some course correction.
Okay, Greg, just quickly on this, do you think Donald Trump is right to sue, to take legal action?
Absolutely. And I think, as he mentioned in the interview with Bev, that great interview, that will be good. It will be revealing to see that it wasn't just 1 or 2 mistakes. There's a real thought process that permeates a groupthink, that permeates the BBC News division. And I think that will be healthy to see that exposed.
Okay, same question to you, Norman. Do you think Donald Trump would be right to take legal action?
No, I don't think it's right. And it'd be outrageous if British licence payers ended up paying for more money to Donald Trump's pockets. Look, Donald Trump's already laid down and screwed down CBS and ABC in the States. And what he's after, I think, is a compliant media that doesn't challenge him. In a democratic society, you have to deal with media which doesn't like you. That's what happens. I had plenty of time in my time in politics being criticised by newspapers and radio and television. That's just how it goes. But Donald Trump doesn't seem to like that, and that's part of the problem.
But Norman, sorry to interrupt. The BBC is meant to be unbiased.
The BBC makes mistakes, and it's made a mistake in its editing this time. But however, let's face it, the BBC is not a left-wing organisation as people portray it. Nigel Farage of this station, of course, has been on Question Time 38 times. That's almost 10 times as many as his MPs. He's got 4 MPs, been on 38 times. The Lib Dems, by the way, I should put in a case, 18 times more MPs in Reform, hardly ever got on there. So the BBC, if anything, is biased towards the right. And that was partly achieved by Boris Johnson putting people like Robbie Gibbon to the BBC to make sure it moved to the right. So the BBC cannot please everybody. People on the right say it's biased to the left, people on the left say it's biased to the right. And perhaps the truth is somewhere in the middle. It's made a mistake on this occasion. I think it was a genuine mistake. I don't think it was a clumsy mistake. I don't think it was malice. And by the way, I think that Donald Trump, given US law as I understand it, has got very little chance of proving this in the Florida courts to his satisfaction.
OK, let's move off from the BBC. The other big talking point from the interview for me is immigration. Greg, coming back to you on this one, Donald Trump says that, immigration, he's sorted it out in America by putting the military on the streets, and it's something we should consider doing in the UK. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I think that, I'm not sure that we have to go to that extreme. And in fact, the military hasn't really been necessary in general in the U.S. I mean, I think there's a couple of spots where it helped, the immigration people alleviate some of the challenges, but it can be done without military intervention. President Trump knows that. He did it. It's amazing. I mean, just by enforcing the law. And if a voter decides that immigration, illegal migration or open borders are a good idea, well, then great, go vote for your congressman and change the law. But right now, the law, and during the Biden administration, the law was detain and deport. And Joe Biden chose not to enforce the law. All President Trump did was choose to enforce the law without the military, and he has stopped illegal migration. It's amazing. And I think the UK could do it too.
OK, Norman, Donald Trump said that Europe and the UK is being ruined by mass migration. What would you say to that?
Well, there's certainly a challenge. There's undoubtedly a challenge from the sheer volume of people coming into the country. Let's just remember, however, that the vast majority, the overwhelming majority of people who come into the country come in legally. So there's an issue about whether the criteria are correct to allow people to come in the country. The number of people who come in by small boats, which is what people focus on, is a tiny proportion of those who come in legally. I think 37,000 came by small boats. I'm not defending that, but that's the figure, I think, compared to 1 million, I think, came in legally. So we have to get this in perspective. But it's undoubtedly true that when you have a big change in population over a short period of time, no matter where it comes from, it can come internally as much as externally, then that puts pressure on public services and puts pressure on housing, on education, on doctors and everything else. And that's probably the issue. I think it's also worth pointing out that, Donald Trump categorized people coming in as drug dealers and criminals and everything else in his interview with Bev. No doubt there's an element of that, as there isn't any element in society. But we've also got people coming in here claiming asylum who are professors, who are doctors, who are nurses, who are journalists, who've been penalised by their own country and threatened with sometimes with death as a consequence of standing up to their government in a democratic way that we all respect. So it's important to understand that as in a wider context, rather than labelling everybody as kind of criminals and down and outs.
OK, I'm just going to come. I've just got voices in my head saying we're running out of time. We are. Greg, what would you say to that Donald Trump went too far in labelling the migrants coming into America as basically scum, I think was one of the words he actually used?
He did.
Yeah, I mean, the critics tried that back in 2015 and 16 in the first campaign. It's okay. There's some hyperbole. I mean, he's not suggesting they are all drug addicts or drug dealers and criminals. What he is suggesting is those are the people that are being released by the prisons in Venezuela, in other countries, and sent to the border. So look, if you have an asylum claim asylum. We're all for that. We're all for migration, but we're not for illegal migration. And I think the challenges in Europe are more around mass migration. And those are the top issues for voters and often ignored by both the BBC as well as the governments in these countries. So, good for President Trump for pointing it out. There's countless examples of people that should not have been in this country killing and raping American citizens. And it's really sad. So the president is right to point that out. Good for him.
OK, gentlemen, thank you very much. We have run out of time. That is Chairman of Republicans Overseas, Greg Swenson, and former Liberal Democrat MP Norman Baker. Thank you both very much for joining us today. And obviously, let me know what you think about that one. I'm sure I can guess where some of you are going on that, gbnews.com/yoursay. Now, in a letter sent to the President on Thursday, the BBC said, while the BBC sincerely regrets the manner in which the video clip was edited, we strongly disagree there is a basis for a defamation claim. I'm Dawn Neeson, this is GB News. There's loads more coming up on today's show. Yeah, Rachel Reeves says she will raise $7.5 billion from millions of workers by freezing tax thresholds at the budget after her decision to scrap controversial plans to raise income tax led to a sell-off in the bond market. All of that and much more to come. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. I'll see you very soon.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to the weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. Lots of you getting very annoyed with Norman Baker from that previous interview. I'll come to that soon, though. But for now, I'm going to do something really nice for you. It's time for the Great British Giveaway, and there's just 2 weeks left to grab your chance to enjoy Christmas on us. That's £40,000 in tax-free cash, shopping vouchers, and a GB News festive goodie bag. The baubles are lovely, by the way. You definitely want the baubles. And here's how you win it all.
There's just 2 weeks left to see how you could win your Christmas this year paid for by us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash so you can have a brilliant new year. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, the decorations, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. And the best news? You'll get it all in time for the big day. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 8th of December. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck indeed. Yes, it really is worth winning. That's an awful lot of cash because you might be needing it. Seamless link here. There are 11 days to go until Rachel Reeves' budget. I mean, we may have mentioned it on an hourly basis. The Chancellor has performed a U-turn again on plans to increase income tax. GB News understands that better than expected economic figures means the 2p hike in rates will now not take place. But Ms Reeves could now freeze income tax thresholds in the budget on November the 26th, which would mean more workers would be higher paid, higher rate taxpayers dragged into that high. It's just a mess, isn't it, honestly? Anyway, joining me now is a man who says there is a blind panic in Downing Street, the Telegraph columnist and former MEP, Brian Monteith. Brian, good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. Brian, hello. I have here a folder in a suitable red of things that Rachel Reeves has said she may or may not do in the budget coming up. But this latest one, the stealth taxes, right? We're not going to increase income tax for everybody because we said we wouldn't do that. But we're going to freeze those thresholds or lower the thresholds at which you start paying income tax. It's the same thing, isn't it? Do they think we're stupid?
Well, I think they do think we're stupid because they really don't know what they're doing. It's no way to run a government. It's no way to run an economy. And clearly, they are being influenced by their backbenchers as to whether they can cut spending, whether they can raise taxes. And it wouldn't surprise me either if they were using focus groups to find out which of the many taxes might be most acceptable to increase.
Brian, we are less than 2 weeks away now. I have never, and I'm sure you feel the same, never in all my very, very long career, I'm old, experienced this much chaos just before a budget.
Well, it's actually part of the process now. It happened with the first budget when it was announced it would be on the 30th of October, and it took months to reach that point. And we've had months to get towards the 26th of November. There was absolutely no reason that the Chancellor had to wait so long. The economy is in a spin. The growth is flatlined. What we needed was urgent action. And instead, what they have done is speculate, and it's all scare stories. And people, of course, are leaving the country worried about the taxes they might face.
Now, to be fair to Rachel Reeves, she has now said that there will not be an exit tax, which is good news because she was worried about people, wealth generators, entrepreneurs, you know, the people we kind of need, leaving the country. So that is something good she's done.
Well, of course, had she not introduced the taxes on the non-DOMs that has forced them to start leaving, then they wouldn't need something like an exit tax. And it's the rhetoric of all the different taxes she might increase that therefore required the thinking behind having an exit tax. So it was actually her own ideas that formulated that. Just ruling it out doesn't do anything because, of course, we know that she breaks her word anyway. And the last thing you do is give advice that you're going to have an exit tax because people think, oh, we better get out before it comes.
Yes, I'd love to say you've chewed me up today, Brian, but sadly you haven't. But thanks so much for joining me. That is Telegraph columnist and former...
that competition.
Well, Telegraph columnist and former MEP Brian Monty, thank you so much for joining us. Now, very, very strong opinions there, which is what GB News is all about. So that was Brian's strong opinions. Now we want yours, gbnews.com/your say, as always. I'm Dawn Neeson, this is GB News, and there's lots more coming up on today's show. The big fight tonight, Conor Benn is seeking revenge and looking to bounce back from his first defeat when he faces bitter rival Chris Eubank Jr. in tonight's big rematch. But first, it's time for the news headlines with Bethany.
Dawn, thank you. Good afternoon. The headlines from the GB Newsroom. The US President has told GB News he feels obligated to sue the BBC for at least $1 billion. That's despite the broadcaster apologising for airing misleading clips in a Panorama programme. People granted asylum in the UK will only be allowed to stay temporarily. Under new government plans, they'll be returned to their home country as soon as it's considered safe. The Chancellor is set to announce so-called stealth taxes in the upcoming budget after she abandoned plans to raise income tax rates. Hundreds of climate activists and Indigenous people have gathered in the Brazilian city of Belém demanding climate justice and territorial protection as COP30 reaches the halfway point. And South Wales Fire and Rescue have declared a major incident in Monmouth after Storm Claudia caused severe flooding and thousands in Ireland are still without power. Those are the headlines for now. More for you at 3 o'clock.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Thank you very much, Bethany. Now, remember, let me know your thoughts on all the stories we're discussing today. And I know we're running out of time, but I promise I'll read as many out as possible. gbnews.com/your say and join the conversation because there's loads more coming up, including Donald Trump mentioned him, didn't he? The Mayor of London hitting back at politicians spreading misinformation. I wonder who's talking about safety in the capital, as new data indicates the number of violent crimes has fallen. But the City Hall Conservatives beg to differ on that one.
And say crime is down. Since you became mayor in 2016, knife crime has gone up by 27%. Violence against the person has increased by 26%. Robbery has increased by 57%. Theft has increased by 37%. Shoplifting has increased by 109%.
Yeah, and you can find out exactly how Sadiq Khan responded to that very, very soon. I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. Don't go too far. I'll see you very, very soon.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. After all the heavy rain yesterday, Storm Claudia will weaken, but leaving behind plenty of cloud and also some fog across the south. But in Scotland, plenty of sunny spells to come. Now here's that area of low pressure just off the Bay of Biscay, and here's the frontal system it's leaving behind. This will bring plenty of rain and drizzle through the course of the day, and to the south of this, plenty of low clouds. Some foggy conditions may remain across this south, but where we do see the fog ease away, plenty of cloudy skies will remain. Further north though, across Scotland, a much brighter day. Plenty of sunny spells here and quite blustery across much of the country, but even these winds will ease away by the afternoon. Plenty of milder air still remains across the south, highs of 14 to 15 degrees Celsius here. Now into the evening, still plenty of cloud will remain, and it will still produce some rain and drizzle, particularly across the Welsh Hills, across parts of the Pennines. Also parts of Northern Ireland continue to see some spells of rain and drizzle. Plenty of clear skies across Scotland, but that does mean as soon as the sun goes down, it will feel chilly once again, and it's likely we'll see quite a widespread frost across Scotland through the course of the night. Skies will eventually start to clear across Northern Ireland, northern areas of England, so it's starting to turn much chillier here, but to the south of this, still plenty of cloud remains, still producing some light outbreaks of rain and drizzle, mainly around hilly areas. But with the cloud, that does mean temperatures will hold up across the south, but many areas across Scotland, Northern Ireland, parts of northern England may just about drop below freezing, with quite a widespread frost across Scotland. Now for Sunday, the second half of the weekend, it will be brightening up for many of us. The remnants of cloud will eventually push south, so remaining quite cloudy across many southern counties, but elsewhere brightening up nicely. Plenty of sunny spells, but some quite blustery winds, particularly around North Sea coasts. There might be some showers around these areas too. For all temperatures, around about average for the time of year, highs reaching 11 degrees.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock, only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Hello, welcome back to the weekend with me, Denise, and thank you so much for your company. Now, London Mayor's question time doesn't often make the news, but yesterday, Councillor Alessandro Giorgio's questioning of Sadiq Khan hit the headlines. Have a look at this.
And say crime is down. Since you became mayor in 2016, knife crime has gone up by 27%. Violence against the person has increased by 26%. Robbery has increased by 57%. Theft has increased by 37%. Shoplifting has increased by 109%.
Strong stuff indeed, very impressive. So we can now talk to the man himself. Alessandro Giorgio, and political commentator Kai Wiltshire is in the studio as well to provide some balance on this debate. Otherwise, I might talk to you at some point, Kai. Okay.
Maybe.
Alessandro, I was very, very impressed with what you did there. I only wish more politicians would actually be so hard-hitting with their facts and their statistics like that. What response did you get from Sadiq Khan?
Well, it's typical with him. Didn't really address the issue. He tried to obfuscate, talk about statistics that were irrelevant. He loves to cherry-pick when he looks at... But the whole point is we have to look at his mayoralty on crime over the last 9 years. It just can't be random facts and statistics, as he loves to use.
So did he come back with statistics that prove your statistics weren't accurate? Or?
Well, he didn't prove anything because he effectively denied the charges, even though he was sat next to the Met Commissioner, Sir Mark Rowley. And, you know, he just has to look at his record. But instead, he just likes to hide behind dodgy data, as he normally does.
And I know he briefly mentioned car crime or something. If the theft from cars or something was down, one of the things he had...
Well, yeah, it was down on a cherry-picked date range, which was over the last 9 months. But he's been Mayor of London for 9 years, which we've had a massive crime wave year on year on year under him. So he can cherry pick all he wants, but it doesn't matter.
I know you don't want to add to the crime statistics, which are terrible, by the way. But how do you sometimes not want to punch him when he doesn't answer questions? I'm not encouraging punching people, by the way. It's bad.
Yeah, as I say, I don't want to add to the crime statistics. No. Also, I don't want my wife to bail me out in the middle of the day. So that's another tricky thing as well.
No, there is that. But it can be frustrating. Kai, am I going to bring you into it now? I mean, those statistics are official statistics. So how can the Mayor of London sit there and then say they're not? I don't understand what he's doing.
Dawn, I think what we've seen, and you know this as well as I do, in the last few years, is both the right and the left, as Alessandra says, cherry-picking statistics to suit their own ends. And I'd imagine that the Mayor's quite frustrated at some of the bad faith attacks that he receives, because he is a bit of a hate figure on the right. That is much as obvious. Now, I'm not saying that's what you're doing, Alessandra, but you surely know and accept that people do use, they cherry-pick statistics, and of course he'll do that. Violent crime being down to the year to March, for instance, is a good thing. Phone thefts starting to be tackled by the newly appointed lead on phone theft. That is a good thing. He says that not enough has been done, but we need to go further. You can't win, I think, in this media environment. So I do feel sorry for Sadiq Khan. I imagine he's doing everything he can to stop this. But these violent gangs are like a game of whack-a-mole. You get rid of one type of theft or one type of crime, and another pops up somewhere else.
I'm sorry, you seem like a lovely man, but it's Sadiq Khan beaming his messaging right into your head right now. No, violent crime up 26%. Right? Stabbing since he became mayor, knife crime up 27%. You mentioned phone theft. A phone in London is stolen every 6 minutes. We're talking millions of pounds stolen off of Londoners under that man as Mayor of London.
I agree.
It's not cherry picking. The thing is, these are facts. You don't need the right to whip up hatred against Sadiq Khan. He does it all on his own because he's a useless, ineffective mayor that has just, as I said before, caused a crime wave across London over the last 9 years. Look at Boris's mayoralty. Look at Ken's mayoralty. He has got the worst statistics of any mayor of London over the last 25 years, and he can't get away from that.
But I have to believe that he is trying to get a grip with the situation. The largest ever phone snatching gang raid happened only earlier in October. They think that they're responsible for 40% of phone thefts in London. That has to be a good thing. It's not an easy thing to, in a city of 9 million people, to sort out crime, what you might call a crime wave. Because actually, as we know, and I hate bringing up the long-term crime stats, because we all know somebody who's had their phone snatched and so on, but we also do know that social media means you see this all the time, but you do have to accept that long-term things are getting better. And if he can get to grips with some of these different types of crimes, then that's a good thing. There's good action happening here, surely. Phone theft 28% down in the City of London. You have to try different things to get somewhere.
I ask my wife, you ask any young woman out there, do you feel safer now than you did 9 years ago? The answer is no. You ask any young person, do you feel more threatened to be stabbed now than you were 9 years ago? The answer is no. Last year we had 1 million crimes. That man lied when he got re-elected in 2024. He said we would have 24/7 police stations in 32 London boroughs. Do you know how many we have now? 2. So as I say to you, Kai, we can cherry pick, anyone can cherry pick anything they want. Just look at the facts. That's all I ask Londoners to do. Do not take my word for it. Go on the Met Police's website and look at the facts. That's what we should all be doing.
I think too many people in this debate are just sort of going finger in the air, what does it feel like? And I know being a victim of crime is a horrible thing. My phone was snatched myself earlier this year. We shouldn't accept it. We shouldn't accept it as normal. But we also shouldn't accept this, including from the President of the United States, people trying to make it out that London is a lawless place when in fact its crime rate is lower than the rest of England and Wales. And people trying to make out that London, compared to other global cities, is an outlier.
That is over the last 9 months.
Alessandra, just respond.
Yeah, so the stat you just pulled, than the rest of England, that was from the last 9 months, not the last 9 years. And there's a whole bunch of factors for that. But you say is how you feel. Sexual offences are up 64% since that man became Mayor of London. Go and talk to a woman. See if it's just about hurt feelings or them feeling slightly insecure. No, they do not feel safe. Yes, we can always look at stats, but we have to look. I know you mentioned phone theft. You know, does that person feel comfortable taking their phone out? Does that young woman feel like she isn't going to get molested when she goes out on London streets? It is about how people feel as well as the statistics.
Okay, gentlemen, I have to finish it there. You have both been brilliant, and obviously there's more of Kai coming up later on if you really want to punish yourself. Joke, Kai. Joke. Councillor Alessandro Giorgio, thank you so much for coming in, and political commentator Kai Wilshire, who's on the Saturday 5 later on.
Absolutely.
So you don't want to miss that. OK, now, GB News contacted the Mayor of London's office, who gave us the following statement in response. Nothing is more important to the Mayor than keeping Londoners safe. Sadiq is determined to do all he can to tackle crime and its complex causes and build on progress that has been achieved in London, with the number of young people being injured with a knife down 26%, homicides down 17%, gun crime with lethal barrel discharges down 43%, and burglary down 27% since 2016. The Mayor has doubled his annual investment in the Met Police from City Hall and will continue to invest record amounts in policing, as we know there is still more to do. I'm Dawn Rees, and this is GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show, including the big fight tonight. Conor Benn is coming back against Chris Eubank Jr. in tonight's big rematch. But if you are in search of some holiday sun, and I don't blame you, frankly, here is a forecast for the top European destination.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Storm Claudia is not just affecting the UK, it will continue to bring heavy rain to parts of Portugal and western Spain. But meanwhile, in the Mediterranean, it's looking dry and sunny throughout the weekend. Highs around 17 to 19 degrees. Also fairly dry across parts of Italy as well. But it's further west into Portugal where the wet weather will continue into this weekend. And that wet weather is set to spread further east into the Mediterranean, bringing rain here later next week. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
The Daily Mail are going on a headline, woke gardens to tackle absenteeism, and stop asking people's questions, it makes them anxious. Now,
of course it makes you
anxious. It's your job.
Yeah, so I mean, I get what they're going, and it's very easy to go with the popular view here. But I think they're not saying all pupils. They're asking to take into account that there may be, in certain sets of the classes, neurodivergent people, autistic, for whom it does make it up. So I do work with children who've been in care, and sometimes I've got people in the room who are autistic, and because I'm energetic and stuff, I've got to be very careful how I approach them. So sometimes, if I'm asking a question, I won't even look.
But Chris, I don't think that you can break up. You can sit and say, well, we've got Dawn, better not ask her that. Chris, I can't ask her this. And whatever. You know, you can't keep differentiating and cutting things up like that. I think you have to relook at what teachers are expected to do.
I think if we're preparing children for the outside world, we have to be tougher with them than we are. Now, you can't wrap them up in cotton wool. The world does not revolve around them. They have to toughen up, sorry.
And you will be asked questions in life.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's true. So are you saying then exclude them from the classroom so that you can concentrate on the main body?
But yes.
Okay. Well, okay. I mean, okay, that might be a solution. Well, so you go back to having schools that cater for.
You see, when people say questions make you anxious. Yes, I was anxious.
Yeah.
We all are. I was anxious. I was anxious when I went to the track, and as a World Cup athlete, I was still anxious when you go to the final. Yeah, we get that.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. This is GB News. I'm Dawn Neeson. If you don't know that by now, what have you been doing? But now we have the wonderful Aidan McGee to talk about the big fight tonight. Aidan, looking fabulous, by the way. Love
Thank you very much indeed, Dawn. Likewise. Yes, look, we've got the big fight tonight. We think the ring walk. This is Chris Eubank Jr. fighting for the second time against Conor Benn. Eubank won the first one back in April at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Same venue this evening, 9:35. We think the ring walks will be. A new line this morning is that there was the rehydration clause, hugely controversial. Yes. Eubank lost £375,000 to Conor Benn last time because he came in a slither over the required weight, which is £160, 11.5 stone roughly. And Conor Benn promptly went and bought himself a Rolls-Royce with that money before losing the fight. But nonetheless, that's gone this time because they were allowed an extra £11 last night when, you know, obviously, which is drinking and eating and everything, and don't forget they've been putting, Eubank particularly has been putting his body through a punishing schedule to try and, it's harder to lose weight than it is put it on, as we all know. So he, this morning, has come in just a pound under where he's meant to be, which is good. It means there's no shenanigans going into the ring. I find it hard to see how... I mean, there's 5,000 tickets still to be sold. And now, don't get me wrong, 55,000 people for a boxing match is absolutely outstanding. There aren't too many boxers these days at world level who can pull in an audience like that, which leads me to think that either of them, people are saying, well, what happens to them when they're gone, if one of them loses tonight? I don't know, Eubank at 36, Joshua's 36. They reckon he's going to fight Jake Paul and Tyson Fury, yeah. Tyson Fury's 37. Deontay Wilder 40, although he's nearly done. So I don't think it's necessarily over for him, but I do think if Conor Benn is going to do it, he's going to have to do it early because I'm not convinced he can go the distance.
I was going to say, what are your predictions on this?
I think I can't see a different outcome to what happened last April. Look, at least...
but that was quite a good fight.
It was a brilliant fight.
Everyone was expecting it to be...
Without doubt. You've got to make a good point there because, yes, lots of people were sniffing about it. But, you know what, there doesn't have to be a belt on the line for something to be a great fight. You know, we've seen great football matches at all levels of the game. They don't necessarily get a trophy at the end of every one, do you? So I think that's almost irrelevant. If fans want to watch two flies walking up a wall and they think it's enjoyable and it sells tickets, who are we to say that shouldn't happen? You know, it's almost like Fred Astaire saying that Strictly shouldn't go ahead because the dancers are useless. So let's hope we get a decent fight tonight. I think we will, but I take Eubank to win. And
we'll talk about it tomorrow. Aidan McGee, thank you very much for that. And thank you for your company. I've been Dawn Neeson. This is GB News. It will still be GB News after I finish. And there's a cracking show with Nana Aquia coming up after this, after the weather, probably. I'll see you tomorrow lunchtime.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Over the weekend, cloudy skies will soon clear to sunshine. Feeling cold though, particularly in some brisk northerly winds. Back to this evening though, and this area of low pressure just off the Bay of Biscay will still continue to bring us some cloud and also some drizzly conditions, particularly across Northern Ireland, northern areas of England to start. But plenty of cloud will clear to the south, allowing some clearer skies across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England. So feeling chillier here, and likely we'll see a widespread frost across Scotland. But with cloudier skies to the south, that will keep temperatures up, so not turning quite as chilly here. Lows reaching around 9 to 10 degrees across the far south, but likely dipping below freezing across many areas of the north. Then to start the day on Sunday, there will be plenty of bright skies across Scotland. That's away from the far north, though. More cloud pushing in here and also some showers, but it's certainly going to be a chilly start with some frost in places. Quite a chilly start across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, and similar here too. Plenty of bright skies to start the day. As we head further south, though, more clouds, some grey skies, possibly some fog in places, and also some drizzly conditions. But the good news is it is brightening up for many areas. Most of this cloud sinking towards the south, so remaining quite cloudy across many southern counties, but for most, brightening up nicely, allowing some sunshine to develop, though we can't rule out some showers just skipping through across Scotland, and some quite blustery northerly winds, so around any North Sea coasts it's going to be feeling much chillier here, but temperatures overall more towards average for the time of year, highs reaching around 10 to 11 degrees across the south. Now into the evening, clear skies once again and lighter winds means it is going to be turning chilly as we head through into Sunday. Likely we'll see frost for many areas, and this theme will continue into next week, feeling colder, but there's likely to be more sunshine for many areas. That's it from me. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's just 2 weeks left to see how you could win your Christmas this year paid for by us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.